We have all commissioners present. We also have Charles Red, the manager, George Young with Holmes & Young, he's our city attorney, Captain Ussery with the sheriff's office, and Christina Marie with our CRA. So with that, we also have our clerk Karen and Pam, our code enforcement officer. And we've got everybody accounted for. With that, Commissioner Banks, if you will lead us in our invocation, please stand if you're able.
Father, once again, we come to you, thanks and to praise you and to lift up your name. Father, we ask that you abide in this meeting tonight, along with all our citizens. And God continues to bless Crescent City. Bless the citizens that round about Crescent City, and let us love one another. We ask this in your Son, Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hurrah.
Thank you all for attending tonight's meeting. I'm going to start off with a few of our announcements with activities that are going to be going on this month. We've got Juneteenth, which is going to be held the 17th and the 18th. There will be a parade of pageants starting at 4 o'clock down Summit Street. And then there will also be on June 18th at 2 o'clock an A. Philip Randolph Day Juneteenth Day celebration. And that's going to be at the Jethro First Baptist Church. And then they're also having a barbecue smoking between the lakes. And that is going to also be on June 17th. And I believe it'll be right over here in the in our market center. And so got some good festivities. Angel Duke, we thank you so much. I don't know if you're in the audience, but thank you for working on this. We also have the Women's Club. The Women's Club is going to have their garage sale this Friday and Saturday. They also have bingo on the 16th, and I've heard that bingo is a Friday night, that their bingos are a lot of fun. And then our yacht club, once again, is hosting the fireworks on June 24th, Saturday evening. The festivities will start at 5, and that's going to be with the partnership. We'll be doing the road activities, and then the yacht club will be doing the fireworks. So it'll go from 5 till 9, 10 o'clock. The fireworks are estimating to go off at about 8:45. So we're looking forward to that. I think that's it for all of the activities. June's kind of a quieter month, but we still have a lot going on. And with that, we're going to start with the approval of the minutes. Commissioners, you have before you the minutes.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I moved to approve the minutes, meetings. Sorry, I don't have it in front of me, but.
I second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second, and those minutes are for April 13th, Animal Control Workshop, May 4th, Land Development Code Update Workshop, May 4th, Special Meeting, May 11th, Special Meeting, May 11th, Regular CRA Meeting. Commissioners, I have a proper motion and a second. Do you have any discussion?
I have corrections and additions for 2 of them.
Okay.
So, for the May 4th special commission meeting, there's some cleaning up that needs to be done. Commissioner Bailey, if you want to pass these down. Just in the first paragraph of the listing of those present, I'm suggesting that Mayor Watts of Black be listed. In the third paragraph, the first line doesn't really read correctly. And of course, I would like the minutes of this special meeting regarding the late Mr. Delaney to be very nice. After Mayor Myers, I would insert the words with Mayor Watts of Black and delete them from where they were. And before Mr. Delaney's name, insert the words the late. Then in the second line of that same third paragraph, it should read school board member, not commissioner. And I would replace could not make it with could not attend. And then in the fourth paragraph, the second line, replace the word kids with the word students. It just makes it a little more formal. If anyone should go back and see it. And then in the regular meeting of May 11th, 2023, on page 2, paragraph at the top, the sheriff's report, there was something that I had asked about, and Commissioner Banks made a comment, and I would request that we add at the end of the paragraph, Commissioner DeVito clarified that she was following up for a resident who had contacted the sheriff's office many times about a problem and fell through the cracks. Commissioner DeVito always requests residents to report all issues directly to the sheriff's office. Captain Essery agreed the issue needed additional attention to be resolved, close quote. Just explains why I was bringing this forward to the sheriff's office and that I don't make a regular habit of taking people's reports, in fact, I don't take. So those would be the changes that I would ask for, and I have a copy for the clerk.
Okay. Commissioner Burton, do you want to amend your motion to include changes?
Yeah, I'll amend the motion to approve the minutes, including all corrections.
Okay.
Second.
You're good with that. Okay. Any other further discussion? Okay, we currently have a proper motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay? So moved. And with that, we're going to go to public comments. We've had, I guess, 3 people that have asked. I'm going to read this just so for clarification. Topics not listed on the agenda will be heard at this time. Comments regarding public hearing topics will be heard during public hearings. Comments regarding business items will be heard during business items. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. If you wish to speak during public comment, please fill out a card by the entrance and provide it to the clerk. Your name will be called when it comes up. Please speak into the microphone. Address the commissioners, not the audience. Speakers shall address the city commission as a whole and refrain from addressing individual members of the city commission, city staff, consultants, or other speakers. Speakers shall afford the utmost courtesy to the city commission, city employees, consultants, and the public, and shall refrain from, at all times, from rude comments. So with that, I'm going to call, I believe, our first speaker was George Miller. Can you please come forward? If you would, state your name and your address.
George Miller, 100 Lakeshore Drive, Crescent City. Just a question, a very respectful question. I read the agenda after lunch yesterday, and somebody suggested I read it again. And the question I have, anyone can answer. Why is the most contentious items put at the very end when most of the people have left after 4 hours? I mean, I would think the most contentious items should be put number 1 in respect of the taxpayers. And I would hope somebody would make the motion or whatever it takes to do that. Thank you.
Okay. Next speaker is Diane Sykes. You please come up, state your name and address if you would.
I want to speak on the business items. Do I speak to that?
Okay, so you don't want to, okay, so you don't have anything outside of what's on the agenda tonight?
No.
Okay, just making sure. Okay, with that, we have Diane Kelly.
And this is related to animal control, is that all right if I bring it up now?
We've got that on discussion,
I
on
can
this.
wait.
Okay, so we can wait.
Sure.
I don't have any other, Angela, are you trying to, I go ahead, I'm in the Angel Duke, if you please come forward.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone.
I didn't see it noted on the agenda, if you're aware of it, but I thought I should bring it up, because the paperwork got in today, because the request went into junk mail yesterday. And that's regarding our Juneteenth event this.
Oh, you can speak about it, but I already talked about it.
Oh, you did?
Yes, ma'am, you were absent. We thanked you for, helping put this together, but you're welcome to speak about it.
Yes, I think there's something important I would like to add to, the festivities, is that this year, again, Coca-Cola is sponsoring us. I sent a letter to the director down in Orlando several weeks ago, but they got back to us as positive. And even more so, they called back yesterday and asked if they could attend the event at Jethro Baptist Church, which is a really phenomenal event that we have in there, where guest speakers from all over. And I kind of told them about Crescent City, and they're very interested in Crescent City now, more so than ever. They want to know a little bit more about programs that we have for the youth and for the community. So that's why they're coming down to be a part of the festivities at Jethro Baptist Church on Sunday, June 18th. So those of you who are not aware, please come out and support what we're doing there. And I'm sure the mayor has already spoken to you guys about the activities on Saturday, the 17th. Thank you.
If you want to, I will say this, if you want to, I know with the girls signing up for the parade, is there some way for people that they need to sign up for the parade?
Yes, the information is on the flyer, and I'll be sending out something to Ms. Trish Murphy, who made an announcement there also. Just a lot of things kind of got lost in the clouds because of school time and the end of the school year. But we have other alternative strategies that we are using to make sure that more girls are informed about the parade. What we're trying to do with that, and I'll make it brief, is to make sure every young girl, regardless of race, creed, or color, get a little tiny tiara. So they all feel special, okay?
Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you very much. Okay. If there's nobody else that would like to speak this time, I'm gonna go ahead and close out public comment. And we're gonna go on to the sheriff's report. Captain Esri?
Good evening, everyone. Sorry for my tardiness. I had my sergeant sitting in for me and we had to rush to a call, so he had to leave out pretty quickly. So I apologize for that. To start off by the reports, as we go through this, you'll see we only had very minimal crime reported again in Crescent City, which is good. But the two that we had this month was one is at 301 Lakeview Drive. The victim left our vehicle open. There was some cash in the center console. The cash was a real crime. And that is a closed investigation. We didn't have anything to go on. We couldn't remove any kind of fingerprints or anything in the vehicle. If you recall, at the beginning of the month there was a few days there where we had a lot of rain and it destroyed any kind of evidence we had there. So, that's just a closed investigation. The second one we had here was a 338 Central Avenue. This is active, so I'm not going to go into many details about it. There was some cash stolen from the, art gallery. So that, again, that's an active investigation. And if you have any questions on the side, we can talk about that. Going on to the next page, the traffic crash data. We had 3 traffic crashes, one in Summit and Vernon. Some of these may have been witnessed because the traffic was shut down there for a while in Crescent City. Vehicle turned off of Vernon on the Summit and collided with the vehicle in front of them. So the vehicle in front of them slowed down a little bit as they turned off and it was a rear end. The second one, when we have injuries that are significant, we reach out to the Florida Highway Patrol if we're even thinking there's a rating that they go by where there's a potential that it could be serious bodily injury. This was one of those. Motorcycle slowed down in front of another motorcycle and collided into that motorcycle, which caused a crash. FHP did work that and the driver is okay, so they did survive the crash. The next one is a crash in the parking lot of Save-A-Lot. Gentleman was making a turn and didn't see the power go in the parking lot and took out the street light. Any questions on those? I know the one where the 2 motorcycles were involved was pretty significant and there was a lot of
I just have one question. On Vernon Avenue and Summit, do we have a summary of how many accidents actually occur at that intersection right there?
A lot. I can look it up, I can get that data, and that's something I was going to put together for the Department of Transportation to see about maybe having a stop, and that's something I need to get with the mayor about, see if something about a stop line. I think I told you guys at one point, we, started working that intersection really hard, and that's one of the challenges we did this month. It started about the middle of the month, and you're gonna see that in some of the next data.
Crescent City has for a stoplight there now for over 3 years, so,
Probably need to address it again.
okay.
We can do it.
Again, they said there's not enough traffic there to warrant it, but definitely that's a dangerous intersection.
Yes, and a lot of times we see the people just aren't paying attention, and when they get to the stop sign, they want to hinge forward a little bit more, and the driver in the back thinks that they're going, so they're looking for traffic and they run into the back of it. That's what we're commonly seeing.
And with that, if anybody has any more questions on these crashes before we move to the next. Okay, go ahead.
So the next is the general activities, that's the calls for service and whatnot. As I told you, we got a little traffic challenge going on here in Crescent City. And you can see the calls for service has increased, we're usually around 200, between 160, 1 to 200. And you'll see what the number there is. It's normally we're ranging between 50 and 60 traffic stops a month, and it was 121 this month. So I'm interested to see what next month's gonna be. The three traffic crashes, suspicious persons in vehicle, that's mostly your nighttime guys checking out with people, and 16 total reports were taken in Crescent City. Any questions on that? And those can range from anything. We're getting, a lot of these traffic stops we're seeing, we're getting, narcotics, drugs, and things like that out of them. Some of them being found property, and some of them actually making cases, so that's a lot to do with some of those cases, and like I said, I can go into detail on those if you would like at a later date. But
Commissioners, any questions? Okay. Move on.
the next one is just a 6-month comparison. I just do this to kind of show you where we're at and where we're going. As I noted, there was only 2 crimes that are actually reported to FDLE, while there was 25 reports for our report. So we're actually only, 2 of those are what we report to FDLE, and that is murder, manslaughter, robbery, things of that nature, the violent crimes. And along with that is burglary, theft, motor vehicle theft. So that's all reported to FDLE. Again, I know I say that almost every meeting, but that's what's reported to FDLE. So when they go on the website to look to see if Crescent City is safe, that's what they're reporting.
Commissioner, do you have any questions on this? Okay, do we have any general questions of Captain Usher? No questions? Well, thank you. Thank you very
so
much.
much.
Appreciate it. Okay, Charles, we're gonna start in our business items. We're gonna start with the results of the RFP 2023-02 impact fee study.
Thank you, Mayor. This item is the result of an RFP we issued. It started back in 2013. The commission at that time instituted a moratorium on impact fees to be revisited in 2018. It did not get revisited in 2018 and came up again when we were faced with the issue of adding sewer lines to avoid having more septic tanks put in off of Oakwood Street. And the cost of that sewer installation was more of a city rather than developers. So in order to reinstitute the impact fees, we must conduct a study to justify what those fees are in case they're challenged in the future. So we put out an RFP for the study. Raptilus was the only respondent. They're the company that did the study for the city of Black. They were also the only respondent for their RFP. So I don't know if they're the only game in town, but they have a representative here tonight to present sort of an overview for you and to answer your questions about the study, the process, and any other questions you may have about impact fees.
Okay. Come forward and introduce yourself. Welcome.
Mayor, yeah, before you get started, could I just make one comment about Mr. Miller's request? Okay, I understand that Mr. Miller would like us to reorder the agenda. It's always a tough choice about where to put things. We have a presenter from out of town. There are a number of local issues that people may want to speak on. And I understand Mr. Miller's concern, but I'm not gonna make a motion because I think this is a pretty good order, and I think the things that go the quickest maybe should be first. So. Thank you, Mayor.
Hey, everyone. I'm Joe Williams from Rep. Ellis, and thank you for taking the time to have us here to talk to you a little bit about the proposal and your impact fee study. So I have a few slides just to talk a little bit about impact fees in general, very high level. We have a fairly detailed proposal that we submitted, and then more than happy to answer all the questions that you have to help make sure you kind of feel good about the process and what we're going to be doing. So yeah, and just objectives and then high-level methodology. So we're looking at wide range of fees that you are, potentially have, police, fire, parks, transportation, water, sewer. And then, impact fees really are for new development to pay their fair share of cost towards the services that you provide. And that's on an infrastructure basis. So we'll talk about that a little bit on the next slide, but that's to pay the initial capital to the city that you have to invest to provide these services for them. So through our process, we look at what you have in place now to provide these services, plus what expansions, upgrades, improvements you're gonna have to make in the future to serve development as it happens. And there are statutes, Florida statutes, and pretty well developed case law surrounding impact fees in Florida. So basics, these are one-time charges. They typically happen during the building permit process, to new development or redevelopment. And you're paying for infrastructure and capital. So on the sub-bullets there, we're not replacing old assets unless there's a significant upgrade, upsizing, expansion. For example, a utility line, if you have a 8-inch line, but there's a lot of development coming, you have to go install a 10, 12, 16-inch line, you can use impact fees to fund generally a majority of that project. We're not correcting deficiencies. So for example, if you have some buildings that don't have enough space now, you're not going to set an impact fee so that new development totally cures the deficiency that you have. They're going to help support upsizing, but you're also going to have to find other infrastructure funds to support the allocation of those costs to existing residents that are going to benefit as well. And then we're not funding operations and maintenance, so we're not funding salaries through impact fees. It's going to be under taxes and other funding sources, which would increase as development occurs to help pay for this. And again, at the bottom, it says one time, during that building permit, construction process. So it's typically not an impact to your existing residents unless they're making certain types of improvements that are going to demand more services from the city. So statutes, section 163, 31801. This has been updated. It was updated, I think, 2 or 3 times between 2018 to 2021. So there's a lot of activity at the state level. These are just a few requirements. It's several pages long in the statute. So you have to make sure, and this is, item A is a large reason why you're here doing a proposal, a bid. Ensure the calculation is based on recent local data. That's pretty strong language. And then you have to collect the fees, put them in specific accounts, account for them separately, and show the accounting of them pretty stringently. And 90 days once you adopt them before you can start charging any fees, increased fees. And the most recent thing they added is that if you have existing fees and they're increasing, there are certain phasing and increased limitations that you have to adhere to unless you can demonstrate an extraordinary circumstance. And some of that is undefined in the statute. We have had communities do extraordinary circumstance. There's a few extra hurdles you have to jump through. And then we've had other communities recently not do the extraordinary circumstance and just phase in the fees. So it all depends on the situation, how urgent the need is for those funds, how quickly you're growing. There's a lot of different factors, and we would help you make that determination through the study, based on all the data we collect and the analysis we do. And high-level methodology, so we do set up a development forecast of what your existing development looks like, and a forecast over the next, typically around 10 years, we'll look out based on available data. We help you set up your fee structure to charge the right types of land uses. So you can get really detailed and have a laundry list of 30 to 40 non-residential land uses, or you can have a smaller list of 3, 4, 5, 6 different types of general land uses that cause different impacts as they develop. And again, we look at your capital improvements, the cost of providing those services in the future. And as part of the study, we provide you a technical report. We come back and make a presentation with our findings. We provide comparisons with other municipalities, and then we generate some revenue forecasts for you as well to get a feel for, okay, we've identified, this $5 million improvement, and impact fees are going to generate some percentage of that over the next 10 years, because there's more capacity than is going to be consumed, things like that. And this is fairly small, but generally what goes into each fee is, mostly what you're going to see is land, buildings, and then depending on the type of service, if there's vehicles. So like fire, you can do the fire trucks, ambulance, those types of things. For police, it's buildings and police vehicles. Parks is land, park improvements. Transportation, extending, widening roads, and then water is kind of the plant, source of supply, pumping, major backbone transmission, and same thing on wastewater plus disposal activities. So a lot of those major infrastructure capital investments that you need to make. And so that's the high level presentation I have for you. And I've heard that there may be several questions, so again, more than happy to help answer any of those that I can.
Okay. Commissioner, I'm going to open it up for questions. Does anybody have questions?
Maybe because I had a hard time going through all this, and I looked at Volusia County's impact fees, and I just looked at Columbus, which is very, very expensive. And you looked at that, but it's very, very long and very expensive. And I guess my question is, when you come up with the impact fees, it's gonna be for this city, right? It's gonna be something that is affordable within this area. It's not a stamp like this is what Putnam County pays throughout the county.
So the impact fee is, we specifically look at your fixed asset data
Okay.
that feeds into your audit. We get your fixed assets, we look at your levels of service that you're providing to the community, and then we look at the improvements that you have on the horizon, and we piece those things together and we say, and I'll say this, there is no consideration of whether it's affordable for your community or not. It's based on the data that you have, and then it's up to you all to determine if you want to establish the full fee or something less.
And that's determined at the time of
Adoption.
of adoption of the plan, or of the adoption of when they come in to develop?
That would be at the time that you set the fees in the ordinance.
Okay, thank you. And then when they come in to develop, we can use that maybe as a negotiating tool at any time? Or?
So typically those can be a negotiating tool if they're providing the types of facilities that would offset your investment.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a police impact fee, for example, it's unlikely that a developer would be able to donate a police car or a building. They could potentially donate land for a new police building. That could be an offset. But yeah, that it typically would be like parks maybe. If you're going to provide some land where we can develop a park, we can give you an offset on the impact fee based on our determination of what a reasonable offset would be. But if you're setting the ordinance, you're going to charge those fees to all development equally, equitably, consistently.
Is there some statutory requirement that we cannot waive those fees? Is that what you're saying?
Right, you're not gonna waive those fees unless there's a, I think the only one you can waive for is affordable housing. If they meet the qualifications of being an affordable housing development, you can waive the fees.
So just so you all know, for common incentive is CRA will pay the general fund the impact fees of the development. And so you kind of sell it as we'll waive your impact fees, but really it's the redevelopment fund pays the impact fees if it's inside that CRA. So that's a way we can kind of, the fee is still paid, but not by the developer.
But it
as an
encourages,
incentive.
it encourages development.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so that's interesting. So basically, we set the fees with our ordinance and set.
Yeah, so our report will always have the maximum fee calculated. If we do get the feedback before it's a finalized report, we can show, reasonably the maximum fees and then the fees that the city plans to adopt. But our report will have the maximum kind of as fee calculated. It's not necessarily a recommendation, it's the calculated fee, and then you set the fee up to the maximum.
My question
Yes, sir, Commissioner Banks.
is, what about growth? Kind of hesitate growth, doesn't it? But a lot of people see that, in other words, they want to be charged an extra $10,000 startup home. Like, okay, where's the rent now? We got quite a few houses that's being built all around in this area. Some of them in the city, but a lot of them is out of the city. But I think that the reason we got out from under it because we thought at that time that it was stunting growth inside the city.
So I have not seen specific studies on this. I have heard that hesitation. Anecdotally, we do, because we do primarily water sewer rate studies, and in the past 5, 6, 7 years, we've gotten a lot into these municipal impact fee studies as well. A lot of the highest growing communities that we work for have some of the highest impact fees. So one community, for example, Claremont in Lake County. I think they're in Lake County. Yeah. They have some of the highest park impact fees around. But everybody knows that Claremont is well known for having one of the best park systems in Central Florida. They're well known for their parks. So developers don't even bat an eye to pay the park impact fee because there's the draw to the community for having the best parks. So anecdotally, we do not see impact fees slowing down growth. There's bigger market factors that typically control that, but every community is different. So that would be your determination based on the type of development that you're seeing.
Now, Charles, can you give us an example of where this impact fee, I think you can, it's over on Oak Street. Like right now, I know we had, this is what brought us all up, was the one
Right.
house and you're putting in a sewer line?
We're putting a sewer line for, I think the estimate was about $400,000. We don't have a way to charge the developer. We have a connection fee to tap into our sewer line. We don't currently have a mechanism that's defensible to have them share that cost with us. We don't want them on septic, so that was the reason we moved to put it in. But this would, impact fees are the way you share that cost.
You would share that cost, okay.
One question kind of along the lines of that is, under the statute, is it possible at adoption to have some parameters? So, or if I move to town, I want to build my dream house, just one house on one lot. Can I be exempted from the impact fees? Is there a way upon adoption we could say this is for X number or more houses, or does it have to be every single development?
It's typically every single development. Yeah, to be equal across the playing field.
Okay, Commissioner? You done, Commissioner Banks?
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Vita?
Okay. Well, so that was one of my questions. How much are improvements costing? For us, the price tag is very significant. It's $90,000. The city manager is proposing to divide it up between the general fund and 2 enterprise funds that would be affected. You know, we're a very small town, 2 square miles. I noticed you talked about, one of the towns you recently served, you know, they were, I think it was Lake Alfred, they were expecting significant growth. We have a population of 1,660 ballpark. Our growth has been very small, like, you know, a few houses at a time. So I guess one question I have is, you know, do cities usually do a cost benefit analysis before they undertake this process?
That's a good question. I think it maybe depends on the circumstances of every city. I don't know the exact answer to that. I will say to the price tag, it's our best estimate on the time that it's gonna take to go through the process. We have to do our due diligence on a lot of things to meet the statute requirements. If good data is available early and often, and we're able to do the study, you know, efficiently, and we come in under budget, we only charge you for the time that we expend. An example I have is in Palatka, we came in about 10% under budget, and that project's complete. And, you know, kind of finishing up, closing it out on our end, but that project is done, so we came in under budget. It's possible, very possible that could happen here. You know, I don't want to sell you on a dream that it's gonna be a whole bunch less, but we do come in under budget when we have the data available and can do the analysis and go through the process a little bit better than maybe a slightly conservative estimate for a proposal process. Because you don't want to come back for a change order.
Don't want to come back with.
For a change order.
A change order, okay, and then another question. So, you know, right now we have some areas that are not served by, I guess not to Charles, we must have some areas that are not served by water, correct, undeveloped. Some of the tracks we've talked about, those wouldn't be water ready, for example.
Like inside the city limits?
Yes,
I think water's available, it's wastewater that's not available everywhere.
right, but even on the very southern border of town, water's available everywhere.
I have to check with Keith, but I think that's the case. But
Right, and so if someone moves in, I mean, would they need water lines run to their house? Would that be our responsibility to pay for that, or would that be theirs to connect up to the system?
I don't know historically what we've done, but currently, you know, we're working with a commercial developer on 17, and we're telling them they'll have to get to our system from their site. But as the Commissioner Banks pointed out, it could be a disincentive for somebody if they figure they can consider it onerous. This would be the same thing, but everyone would pay it evenly. So if I want to build my house, but I'm not close enough to water, and I want to pay to run it 2 blocks down the street, then that's on me.
Right, because it's my understanding, we could be like, for example, Pomona Park, I think they don't necessarily provide water and sewer to everyone. People just sink wells in the middle of Pomona Park. It's just a more rural kind of lifestyle. So my question is, you know, what are we required to provide, and how, you know, does the responsibility fall out? I understand, obviously, we just spent $400,000 on the sewer line. I don't know.
Is there, go ahead, I'm sorry.
In the past, this is the way it's been. If, for instance, the trestle place out there at Junction, okay, they paid Crescent City to run the water out there. Now, And the school, the high school, is connected to Crescent City water supply. I think it's a 8-inch line or 10 running up and down Union Avenue. We started to, in the beginning, when it first took off, it was, the line was supposed to be much smaller, but when the fire people came, they told it had to be bigger. So they enlarged the line. And I think we kind of got in on that because if you know this little red cross on Union Avenue, time you turn that Union, it's a housing, little duplex there, housing, and some of those people is connected to the city. But we can refuse to connect them if it can overload the line.
And we have been up in that area. We have, I think, a 6-inch line running up in school.
Now that's really been passed, and once upon a time, they wouldn't, all you could do is put a well in the city for your landscape. Some of the farmers, before we got up here, yeah, it just for the landscaping part of your yard, you could put a little small well down. But for your resident, you had to have city water connected to the city.
So I have one more question.
Okay.
If I could. So what are average impact fees? What range would we be expecting?
Well, that, that depends on everybody. Palatka, I wrote theirs down because they're not too far away. Their total fees are, the total fully calculated fees. Mind you, they had to phase in, so they didn't get the full impact fee level based on where they were starting. But fully calculated was $6,599.
That's for a single family home?
Yeah.
Okay, and you said, what was that part you said about phasing that in?
So they were in a similar situation where they had fees that were suspended for many years, but they technically, still had those fees on the books. So when it came time to approve new fees in light of the current statute, they phased them in with those fees that were on the books to get to their new fees over 2 or 4 years, depending on the level of increase.
So they phased them?
Yeah.
Um,
And I'll say that the $6,599, you probably wouldn't be too far off from that. But there are communities, and I haven't looked at your asset data, so it's hard to say, but similar, smaller town, I'm imagining that you don't have a lot of big, large, expensive buildings or plans to build big, large, expensive buildings. And that's what can really drive up the fees on a lot of these calculations.
And it's my understanding, like for parks, we actually, according to the information that we've been given, we have more parks than are required already for our population. Our population is a few hundred below what it was at its peak. And I think, don't we still have capacity in our water plant, for example? Right, and I can't imagine us needing to widen any roads we have areas where we would need to pave roads, but I cannot imagine Crescent City needing to widen roads. We have some very nice roads that are here waiting to be used. So I guess that is all the questions that I have for you. I have some issues to discuss, I guess, with the city manager and my fellow commissioners about how we make a decision on this, but thank you, very nice presentation.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Good, I got some.
Commissioner Bailey?
Thank you, Mayor. I was the one that kind of brought this up to begin with when we were spending $400,000 for 3 homes to go off the road. It's my understanding that we used to have the impact fees. And for better words, if we've taken a vacation from that, I can't see now, you might be able to tell me these impact fees, are they on a state manual that have a formula or such that does it, or does the commission vote on those fees themselves?
We would bring the study back to this commission, and you would have an ordinance come in front of you, and then you would approve the fees.
So we would basically make up the manual for the impact fee is what it was. And my meeting at the time, when we were doing these $400,000 upgrade for 3 or 4 homes, was that they'd already allotted $9,000 to $15,000 for a septic tank anyway. So my question is, where does it really state that we need to have a fee of $90,000 to have this done, when we could probably implement the old one to begin with? And the commission is gonna make the recommendations or the final say it would be done anyway. But my introduction of that last time was when the city spent $400,000 on that tank to go out there, we were getting nothing, and we would never, ever get a return on that investment. And yeah, I don't know that anybody really cares that we didn't want to have septic tanks on it, but septic tanks been around since the dawn of time. I remember the comment at the time from somebody saying, well, we don't want turbs on the front lawn, and that really doesn't happen. So to me, I'm thinking that 900,000 plus the 400,000 we've already spent is 500,000. And according to that, I don't believe that we can retroactively incorporate those things, even though they haven't been built yet, to recoup some of these fees. No one wants to stifle growth in your community, but we can't run the city bankrupt on $500,000 for the stuff we'll never get back. My question to you is, how do we justify $90,000 worth of a study that's kind of throwing good money after bad, when we know we need some sort of fees? But unfortunately, it looks to me like the growth that we're gonna have has already happened in a spurt, that we probably won't get anything like that for a while.
I would like to say something.
Yes, Commissioner.
It seems as though we have to have an impact study in order to bring back impact fees. Is that what I heard?
Has to be.
I would defer to
They
your
have to be-
attorney. I would defer to your attorney on that.
That's correct. And so we can't go back and use, I don't know when we had impact fees for radios in here, but it doesn't sound as though we can go back even 5 years, or even a year maybe. I mean, everything keeps getting better supposedly, right? Or harder or whatever. But what I'm hearing, really is, it sounds as though most people feel that our growth has been grown enough and now we're gonna stop. We've already spent $400,000 for that particular water line, I know, right? That's,
What was committed to up to that amount?
we've committed up to that amount. So that's, I guess that's a kind of a done deal. And if we do need to move forward, and if we do want to, include impact fees, then we have to do the impact study. That's what I'm understanding.
Mayor, I do have a couple other questions. So how, what length of time would you anticipate this study would normally take? What's the time frame for that?
They're usually 90 to 120 days.
Okay, so 3 or 4 months?
Yeah.
Okay. And then, Commissioner Bailey got to an issue that I think is important. So a sewer line that's gonna serve maybe, I don't know, Charles, 10 houses? Potentially. Well, there's property all the way to the line.
Property on.
And one commercial.
Right, and one commercial. So if the cost of that is $400,000, it seems that there are some improvements for which the impact fee is not going to cover the total cost. Would that be correct?
The impact fee is based on an average cost.
Okay, but I'm saying for us, like if we have these small areas that are gonna be very costly to serve, I mean, it doesn't seem to me like we're going to be charging $40,000 a house or per commercial building, maybe a commercial building. In other words, it seems like one way or the other, although we can recoup some costs with the impact fees for some types of improvements, like sewer lines, of the nature of this one, we're going to have to find other sources of funding. Would that be correct?
That, on the surface, it sounds like that's correct. And it sounds like there's either oversizing in the line where it could serve more than 10 properties, but it just situationally, it's only gonna serve 10 properties. So you have stranded capacity that you would not be able to recover from an impact fee or from other types of charges. That's situational, it happens all over the place. So yeah, and it's based on the average cost of providing sewer across your system. That would be a calculation.
The average cost of providing sewer across the system.
Yeah.
Okay, that's very helpful, thank you, Mayor.
You know, sitting up in banking, a big portion of Crescent City sewage, I think the government wanted to get them off of going in the lake down there. Or they were feeding the fish, the sewage, they were feeding the fish, but what happened, we got a grant. And the grant covers, cause they would pay the $500 connection fee. All that was under that grant for people to hook up to the sewage. The region, the bigger portion of it, and some of the money come out of the city courts. We had, we're over on, I think it's Lake Street, somewhere over in that area, we had to put in a lift station, and that was very expensive. But the city bit the bullet. So we're gonna have to, if we wanna get the people off the sewage, I mean, off, I guess, putting all these septic things all over town. Somehow we're gonna have to pay something regard to what, the assessment brings in. Yeah, sure, the assessment is gonna help quite a bit, but we're not gonna get no $400,000 for the 8 houses.
Right, impact fees will not solve all your problems.
That's what I'm
They
saying.
will provide you funding towards some of your problems, but they are not gonna
They're
be
gonna
the
solve all
end
of
all.
it. Correct.
It's not the magic bullet.
So I have a question for you. You stated that it was for 10 years. The data you're gonna provide us is you're hoping to project 10 years out. I wanted to know how long the study is really good for. And you said for 10 years, hopefully. Is that correct?
We do a 10-year forecast
Okay.
to capture development that could happen 10 years out, projects, because a lot of times when you're doing these projects, $400,000 here, $600,000 over here, because all the development may not happen right away. So we try to expand the horizon a little bit to capture and align the growth with the improvements. Again, that's gonna be ultimately a question. City attorney, people start getting challenged on the laws stated in the statute. I just go back to
Right there.
item A,
Doesn't dictate.
recent and localized data. It's undefined. So
Okay.
there's impact fees in place right now in a lot of communities that are still from 2007, 2008. I don't know if they would uphold a challenge for recent and local, but they're still being charged.
But they've been consistently charging that. They didn't put a moratorium on them. Is that what you're, okay?
Right.
As long
Yeah,
as
we're
they
still updating
consistently
fees.
charge that, there's not a moratorium on them to go back and revisit them. So I'm looking at your cost proposal and looking at this, is there anything, because this is a big ticket. Is there anything that can be backed off of this that we don't have to do as part of this?
Right. Well, so the capital improvement element, you can probably do a lot of the public hearings and submittal to the state and things like that yourself. That would reduce effort. That technically is our sub-consultant, but that would reduce his effort. If we,
What was that?
we have a
Capital
we have a
improvement number
sub-consultant.
3.
Okay, I just didn't hear what he said.
Yeah.
Okay.
If we didn't need to, be on site for as many meetings, we can reduce travel time and things like that. During the adoption of the fees, we can provide a presentation if you didn't want us here to present it. That's an option, or we can do a web presentation if that was feasible. There's ways that we can economize time. But a lot of it is doing the due diligence, research, analysis, calculations to make sure that if we're calculating a fee and writing in a report and bringing it to you for adoption, it meets all the requirements. And then if you get challenged, we're able to stand up for it and, not have any, we cut that part of the scope out, so, if the city's risk, if they adopt this, that we're not sure if it's right, or that's really what goes into it, is make sure that we've done our due diligence.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, I'm ready to make a motion just to
Okay,
move things along.
I have one more question.
okay. Commissioner.
We stated earlier that you had about $6,500 for an average type thing, and you multiply that by 10, that's $65,000 out of a $400,000 deal. Is there other verbiage, and maybe I need to address the city attorney, is there other verbiage other than calling it impact fee? I mean, what's wrong with saying city needs a water hookup fee for our services, other than impact fee to facilitate a study and a law type thing? I mean, what's wrong with the city going, it's our water, you want to hook up to the sewer, or whatever, it's $6,500 for a new building? I mean, do we have to go down the road of impact fee? Or do we, a lot of city places, put in water meters, you have to put in your own water meter, that's not an impact fee.
Right, so there's typically the impact, capital type connection charge, and then there are more of that physical connection charge where the city will send somebody out to tap the line.
Right. Why couldn't we just call this a
So
connection?
that's a separate fee, that's additional separate fee that you have.
That's why I was asking, why can't we just call this a connection fee instead of impact fee? We get something, because at this point, we've already spent the $400,000, it's not a matter where it come up from. It's a matter of how we can supplement it a little bit, rather than footing the whole bill, without paying another $90,000, without having another impact fee study.
Are you looking for me to weigh in on that?
I am.
Okay. It's called an impact fee because of the way that it's applied. It's applied to every new business, construction, or however it's laid out. So no matter what it is, it has a particular impact fee. That's why it has to go through this process, and that's why the statute covers it. As for those other things you're talking about, they can be done, but they have to be done under those ordinances. Whatever your connection fee is for your water, other fees you may have, those type things, it's a tax.
I mean, could we do an ordinance to say, hey, you have to have a water or sewer hookup fee without saying it's impact fee? If we did an ordinance for that, hey, you build a new home, and I need to, have 30 feet to whatever, $6,500 to hook it up instead of a septic, without.
Potentially,
That's my question, I'm trying to get around, thinking outside the box of.
because then you're being specific. What you're doing there is you're going back to your utilities, let's talk water, and say that if you need water hookup and you're X number of feet away from the main sewer line or the main water line, then if you want access to it, you have to pay a certain amount per foot for it to be supplied to you. Can you do that? Yes. But see, that doesn't apply to everybody. An impact fee applies to every new construction. That's the main difference between the two. So can you come out and use things like that? Absolutely.
Yeah, and to me, that would be more beneficial, because let's say, Mr. Rudd, like you said earlier, we have a person who wants to come in with the impact fees, it's carte blanche, you gotta do it anyway. If it's a hookup fee and you say, hey, we'll have an incentive for you to build a new house, or waive that, it seems to me like that would be much more advantageous.
I'm not disagreeing, but from a legal standpoint, I just want to point out the difference between an impact fee and what's a service fee or a hookup fee or attached to a specific situation.
Appreciate it.
We currently have a $500 sewer connection fee, and for water, it's $150 plus $35 for administration. So we charge a connection fee, but it applies even like we have an in-house. We just recently had a house in town, septic, they want to attach to our sewer. So rather than a $6,500 connection fee, they just had a $500 connection fee. So you have to distinguish between brand new development and, I don't know, we have a different connection fee for brand new development versus.
Well, I think that could be administered.
Existing.
Well, connection fee is one thing, you have to define it as those situations, if you're
Existing
wanting-
structure.
Yeah, whether you're existing structure or non-existing structure, if you're a certain distance from what the city supplies and we want to connect, then we're saying you got sharing the cost, and you figure that out. And that's what your ordinance would be for that particular issue, if you're gonna go that route.
I think that's exactly what I'm describing, I want.
Okay, I'm done with it. I'm ready to entertain a motion if I can, Commissioner Benito.
Right, and just before that, I want to say, the impact fees are not just for the connection, they're for capacity.
Right.
And so it seems to me that if we tried to kind of game the system, that any developer would quickly be onto that. And we might have more problems than we started out with. So, I've heard a lot of good information, great presentation, a lot of good questions. My motion is that we table this issue until we do our general fund budget workshop in July, so that we can have better sense of where the funds will come from. And as well, that we take the opportunity of time to look at some options for reducing the cost, such as you suggested, maybe we could do our own capital improvement plan, or that we investigate those options, the dual thing, that we make sure that we're comfortable with spending the money in next year's budget, and that we look at any options for reducing the cost.
So when do you want to table this until, do you want to table it to August?
I would say, well, let's see, in July, our regular commission meeting is after the general fund workshop. So, we could potentially bring it back on July 13th. Okay.
Is that gonna give us enough time? Because we talk about dollars.
Yeah, I would probably recommend that you take it to August.
Well, if we potentially table it to July, can we not retable it until August?
You can, you can.
Yes.
I mean, if we, I'm asking.
Just don't want to keep looking,
Right,
look
well, I'm
like,
asking-
just keep moving it,
Right, I'm
kicking it
asking
down
the
road.
city attorney, can we table it again if we feel we're not quite ready?
As a matter of procedure,
Yes,
if the commission so decides, yes, you can table the issue with it as far as you're going.
all right, I just, I
So you
mean,
want to move it to the next meeting?
yes, I'd like
Table it
to
to the
table
next
it
meeting.
to the next meeting.
Do I have a second, Commissioner?
I second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay?
Nay.
Okay. Motion passes. Thank you so much for your time, for the presentation. That was very thorough. We appreciate it.
Thank you all.
With that, we're gonna move on to the request for red, white, and boom.
Thank you, Mayor. The next item is the annual red, white, and boom fireworks this year. Essentially, it's gonna be the same, it'll be a little bit smaller physically. You're gonna pull it in to, just go up from Mystic Bistro down to the waterfront, be vendors on the street, and fireworks over the lake, as typical. The issue they're partnering with the partnership, the downtown partnership, to conduct the event. And the request is, for you, is to allow them to serve alcohol at the event during the party, which will be contained within the event area. And they will have alcohol, legal liability with the city listed as additional insured. Staff recommends approval of the request, and Christina is here. I think Trish is here to answer any questions you might have.
And that's from Park Avenue, that's from Park Street, all the way down to,
Yes, Park will be closed, so if you come on Central, you get to Park, you can go left or right, because you couldn't go through.
Commissioners?
I move to approve the downtown partnership to sell and serve alcohol at the red, white, and blue.
Second.
Okay, we have a proper motion and a second. Commissioners, do we have any discussion?
I have some questions, probably for Christine Marie.
Okay.
Should I wait till she comes to the podium to ask?
Yeah.
Great. Hi, Christine Marie. My question is, what impact do you anticipate that the partnership selling alcohol will have on the two businesses that I expect to be open? In fact, it's my understanding there's an advertisement by the Mystic Bistro that they're specifically gonna be open for red, white, and boom, and they're gonna have a special, Fourth of July type, a non-bistro menu.
Yes, correct. I've been in
So-
communication with Lorraine on that topic.
Right.
So again, we will be purchasing the alcohol local, and the alcohol that's purchased at the bistro and Three Bananas is only allowed to be kept on their premises specifically. The idea of the partnership having alcohol is not only fundraise for the organization, but to be able to have that available for the patrons that are walking the block and enjoying the music and vendors.
Okay, and so people will be able to walk up and down the block with
In the
alcohol?
confined area of the event, yes.
Okay, so what is that confined area? Because it sounded like it was just the viewing area. What is the area?
Where the vendors will be staged is between park and lake.
Okay,
And then the yacht club, emergency services and whatnot will be down by the water.
but so people will be able to walk on the sidewalk from Park Avenue all the way down to Lake
Yes.
with alcohol.
On
So,
the road
To the lake.
To the lake,
right, to the lake,
and
So-
the road, because the road will be closed off.
right, the roads will
The
be closed
sidewalk,
off.
just the sidewalk.
And I have also spoken to Pat and Anna, the managers of Three Bananas, and they support the partnership selling alcohol. They're not concerned with it affecting their business whatsoever.
Okay, and what about the homeowners?
I'm in the process of informing the one homeowner there in that area, and then there's also the apartment building.
Right, but do they have any concerns? I heard concerns in the past about, people lining up on lawns and encroachments onto the private property.
So you're asking about concerns about her, people being on her property or?
Just for the people who live in the area, how's there gonna be a demarcation between the public sidewalk and the lawns that are there? I used to live in an event area, I'm very familiar with it.
Yeah, as did I during the middle of Blue Crab in downtown Palaca, so
Oh,
I'm very
yes,
aware.
Tampa.
Oh, yeah.
It's been a topic of discussion with our event committee. We will be letting Ms. Tillman know and being very mindful of her property, not, blocking her driveway in any way and being, as respectful as possible. It's a very confined area. We'll have several volunteers on staff. And again, being extremely mindful of our residents in that confined area.
Okay, thank you.
And in the past, as far as with Ms. Tillman, I think she's in the audience, we've gone down there and met with her early in the morning and had her move her cars out so that she can get her cars in and out on the side street, correct? So she can get her cars, or her cars parked there, right across from Three Bananas. I know, I met her, I think I met her last year. I just wrote that area off, we wrote that area off for her parking.
Yes, as I said, it's a topic of our, event committee meetings, and we will certainly be very mindful and respectful of her property.
Okay, or the apartments or the
Absolutely, any
Airbnb.
residents.
Okay,
And there won't be music on that side either this year, correct?
As of now, there isn't. There was a little miscommunication between Three Bananas. It was first presented to the committee that Three Bananas was going to be having a band out back, and that is inaccurate. They'll just be having acoustic musicians playing. So there could be the possibility of maybe a speaker just for effect. Again, we'll be mindful of our residents, nothing obnoxious.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any other comments? No. Open it up if we have any public comments. Anybody? Any public comments? And close public comment. Commissioners, we have a proper, motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
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 So moved. That's approved, thank you. Charles, the yacht club's already been given their approval for the display, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure. Okay, let's move on to
Mayor, the next item is a request for approval for the Juneteenth parade on Summit on June 17th. The parade will marshal at the bank, just like all of our parades do, and work its way south on Summit, all the way down to, I believe, Lemon, cut over to Prospect Street, circle back to Market Square. Rather than close off traffic, we were too late for a DOT permit to just shut down the highway. The sheriff's office is going to do what's called we call a rolling roadblock, where there'll be units in front and behind the parade participants to stop traffic as we move along, and then traffic will be able to proceed as soon as we clear the street. Staff recommends approval of the parade request.
Okay, Commissioner?
I'll make a motion to approve the road closures for the parade.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Commissioners, do we have any discussion?
You told us a great parade. You're welcome.
Will be.
Do we have any public comment? Seeing no public comment, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. So moved. Passed.
Mayor, the next item is really for your consideration, something we want to get approved, investment and budgeting policies. This came up recently. You may have heard the bank in California failed, and so there was concern that our money is approximately $5 million is in the bank in 2 accounts. How safe were they? The bank has informed us that our accounts are safe. They are, her language, the city is a public funds account, so all funds are collateralized and secure. The city's funds over $250,000 do not fall under the FDIC instead of collateralized. So what they did recommend, however, that we take approximately $2.5 million and put it into the money market and earn potentially up to $70,000 a year in interest. So that brought to light that we don't actually have a policy for that in our policy procedures. So rather than just bring it to you for approval, there's quite a bit of the packet of policies for budgeting and capital expenses and so forth. Brought that to you for consideration, give you a couple months to look at it, ask us questions, and we're looking for direction to come back to you with an ordinance to amend our policies and procedures to include those in the packet.
If something, God forbid that we have something really bad happen, like a storm or something, anything, we're not gonna be hindered.
Correct, we'll be able to get those funds within 24 hours. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll move.
But we would lose interest investment though, or a withdrawal.
Yeah, I would imagine there'd be a penalty. The important thing is we wanted access to it.
We can't tie it up completely, we need access to it possible.
So we're not asking you to make that move, we're asking you for direction to prepare an ordinance.
Okay,
So I move to write an ordinance to amend the policies and procedures manual to include policies on investments and budgeting.
okay, we have a second?
Second. We need it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Commissioners, do we have any discussion?
Mayor, I went through the investment policies and budgeting policies. I have questions and comments about some of them. Particularly, I think the investment policy is way beyond what we need to get ourselves into right now. I think that it's much broader than I think suits our situation, and we're coming out of a situation where we haven't even had, monthly financial or quarterly financial statements for quite a few months. But in the interest of time, would it be practical for me to write down my thoughts on this and circulate them to the finance director and the rest of the commission? We can't obviously talk about anything that I share, but we could certainly look at it before the next meeting.
Yeah, and maybe get with the finance director too, and see if he can answer some of these questions. There was a lot here. I mean, there's a lot here to take in. It's very technical. So, we would probably all have quite a few questions of him. So But yeah, by all means.
And I see Mr. Young wanting to say something about what I just said.
Not wanting to, but just a reminder,
Right.
to circulate such information among the commission could be viewed as a sunshine violation.
There you go.
Well, I'm saying, I thought we can circulate
Bring that
information. Right, we can circulate information, we just can't respond to it.
No, because it's something that could become right back before this commission to vote on.
Right, that's what I mean, I'm assuming it is, but before the meeting, if, without the intention of anyone to respond, can I share my list of questions to the finance director?
With the finance director, yes.
Right, but can I share that with the rest of the commission?
No.
Don't do that, okay, well, that's fine. Then, in that case, I would like to say what my main concerns are. Number one, I think a lot of the investment policy goes way beyond, what I could see us doing. It seems to authorize the city manager to, quote, make trades. I can't imagine that we would be trading or that we would authorize any investment without the approval of the commission. So I really don't quite understand that. And then, it seems that in the fund balance policy, it says set aside 3 months of the general fund of operating expenses. But I just wanted to, I guess, discuss with my fellow commissioners, or we set a current policy that we would keep $1 million in reserves. And we did that because it's not only operating money that we need, but in the event of a storm or other natural disaster, we have to pay for cleanup, we might have to rebuild things or buy more equipment. We need a lot more than 3 months of operating. So that's another concern that I have. That's a significant deviation from our current policy. So that's mainly what I have, and I'll just talk to the finance director about the rest of it.
And I had some of that on the investment policy as well. I had some questions on that, but I'm gonna do the same. And I'll talk to him about that. Commissioners, we have any other questions at this time? I do have a speaker that would like to speak on this. Okay, Mr. Laurie? Okay, if you would come forward,
I'll be brief.
please state your name.
Charles Bim. If I understand what I just heard, maybe I'm incorrect, but it seems like we have a great amount of public funds that's being held in only 2 accounts. Did I get that correctly? Look, everybody here knows that any account insured by FDIC is limited to $250,000 or less. Anything above $250,000 is not covered. If we have a bank that one of the 2 banks holding public funds right now goes under, that would seem to me it would put a big chunk of the public funds of this town at risk. Also, it appears that it would appear to be a good policy to spread the risk among multiple banks or multiple institutions that will offer insurance to the public funds where possible. It would just seem like good risk management. So with that, ma'am, I will yield.
Thank you. And we have, and I'd asked Charles about this too, and he checked with our banks. And Charles, if you wanna just
Read it again.
read it again.
I'll read the whole thing. In order to accept Florida public funds for deposit, a bank or savings association must have a status as a qualified public depository. The QPD is defined as a bank or savings association that has a branch office or offices authorized to receive deposits in Florida, as FDIC deposit insurance, meets the requirements of Chapter 284 statute, and designated by this office as a QPD. This is from the Treasury Management Office. South State Bank is a QPD in the state of Florida. The city is a public funds account. So all funds are collateralized and secured. The city's funds are over $250,000 do not fall under FDIC, instead of be collateralized. The bank sends public fund clients our public funds depository status for their accounts each year. most municipalities, government entities need this document for their annual audit. So we are covered. And again, this is the reason, this is just a consideration to start this conversation. There may be many things you want to tweak and sort of personalize about the policies. So that's the purpose of this item.
Well, I do not know what collateralized means in terms of everything above $250,000.
Well, it did come directly from the bank, so that was.
So what do we get, a piece of the bank?
From the, I guess from Charles, Raditha, yeah, Raditha sent that to us.
Well,
So thank you.
My question is these bank and checking accounts are in California, right?
No, they're right down
Oh,
the
yes.
They're right down the street, but I had heard that they were in California, and I didn't understand that.
Facebook,
And we didn't have to locally. I don't understand why we would be in California.
no,
Well,
South State.
I would offer one more question then. Is there a downside to compartmentalizing chunks of public money among several providers rather than a very few? It's convenient to have it through one or two. It's worldly convenient in terms of any questions that the city may have or direct contact with those that are handling public money. But for the sake of convenience, are we not bearing undue risk? And do we have any downside to splitting this money up? And we're talking about millions of dollars in public money. Is there any downside to splitting it among multiple institutions, all of whom should be insured, otherwise we shouldn't be dealing with them? And in doing so, minimize the risk to public funds.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker, Mr. Laurie. Yes, Commissioner DeVito.
I have a question about what we just discussed. Could we please get copies of what the bank provided? And then for the next meeting, if we have a policy coming back to us and ordinance form, could that, whatever it is the bank provides by way of explanation, could that be included in the agenda packet?
Yes.
For that when we consider the financial policy?
Yes.
That would be great.
And Mayor, we used to have, as you well know, we had about 15 accounts and we had trouble moving, we had to keep moving money to pay bills and it was chaos. So Dale is working on a strategy to perhaps divide it differently, where it's not in two, we reduced to a pooled cash account and a deposits account. So we are working to update the system. The suggestion will be to take half that money and invest it, and then the rest of it will probably be divided based on the fund that it's in. But we had trouble even between funds, water, water and gas were having trouble and had to borrow from other funds, and it's problematic.
Mayor, if I could just clarify one thing in light of the discussion. Those 15 accounts, though, they were all at the same bank, correct?
Yes.
We did not have them as separate banks, but just so people don't have the wrong idea.
And we do not have those 15 accounts any longer.
Right, but when we did, it's not like we were spread among 15 different institutions.
Mr. Laurie.
EJ Laurie, 505 Magnolia Avenue. One point I'd like to bring up is the banks that we're talking about in California were regional banks. South State is much larger than a regional bank. And also, all of the depositors in all those banks, including Silicon Valley Bank, received all of their money, even over the $250,000 that was insured by the FDIC. So in all of these cases, every depositor got every dollar out of their accounts. And it's kind of if you look into it further, it's a very localized, very specific thing having to do with those two banks, but that's not what I was going to talk about. But what I wanted to bring up was in this policy, you guys put them together. I think that it would be prudent to put a policy together about the Better Place Plan funds. We have up to this point been using them as slush funds, kind of buying when stuff when we need it and putting stuff out. And I was doing some research in Florida Statute 212.055 actually specifies what you can use the discretionary surtax on. And it does not include vehicles unless they're police or fire vehicles. So when we bought some trucks for the water department last year out of it, that was not a legal purchase. And it'd be great if we had it on paper, and so that this time when we come around to the budget, we're not, depending on that, because that's not the intent of the Better Place Plan Fund, and it's not the law either. But it is something that's been kind of near and dear to my heart that we use that money for what it was intended for, which was enhancing projects as matching grants and things like that, and it is actually spelled out in state law. So I think we should have a city policy just to make sure that we follow that. So I think that was.
Thank you very much. Any other speakers? Okay, with that, we have a motion and a second, to defer this to the next meeting in July. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Just a minute, is to defer, but I thought we were gonna have.
I'm sorry, we're tabling it.
Oh, no.
No, are we asking the staff to come
I'm
back?
sorry, you're right.
That was the one before.
That was the one before. Apologize. Apologize, yes. Flip the page, yes. So this was to direct staff to do an ordinance.
Ordinance to amend the policies and procedures manual to include policies on investments and budgeting and for the next meeting.
You want it for the next meeting? Well, okay.
I think so, yeah.
It'll be the first draft.
Okay, that'll be the first draft. Okay. And we had a second by Commissioner Banks on that. Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? So now we're gonna go to, Charles, if you want to talk about this one.
The chickens.
No, planning and zoning.
This item actually, at the request of Commissioner Bailey, originally it was to select a planning and zoning chair. I wrongly put that on the commission to appoint, and Mr. DeVito pointed out that that commission elects its own chair. We'll do next week, or at least consider it. So this is one of the changes. Commissioner Bailey requested that we discuss issues with the planning and zoning commission after the chairman's recent resignation.
So, we have discussions or something you want to discuss, Commissioner Bailey?
Oh, yeah, I was wanting to actually have, I asked him to be here to see when he could make it. But I wanted to find out why a guy at 15 years decided to up and leave for some obvious reason that he wrote to me in an email on the city website, and I was kind of wanting to get to the bottom of it. We gotta figure out why. And there's a guy who's on the thing 15 years is so disgusted, he throws his hands up, and if this is what's gonna continue, the next person they elect chair is gonna run into the same thing. Things have to be either resolved and find out what the problem is. That's what I was hoping for. We had testimony of what happened and try to rectify it rather than, just pass it along to the next president.
Well, he had indicated at that night in his letter that he felt in the minority, that the 4 other commissioners felt that the code was necessary, line development code and the rules. He had wanted it to be somewhat more flexible. And I think when he saw it, it appeared when he saw that he was the only one that felt that way, rather than be sort of the counter voice in future arguments, he resigned his position.
Okay, you reached out to Mr. Carmichael and asked him to be here?
Yeah, I haven't heard back from him, but I called him, and I in fact emailed him, to ask him if he would come to let me know, let us know what goes on. His email to me was a little more descriptive about some bureaucracy and some issues that were within the thing that he was fed up with. I wanted to find out what that was.
So your email is different from the email that we all received with his
I don't know
resignation?
what you received.
What's
I
the
don't
one,
have
I
any idea
know,
what you received.
but he sent it to all the commissioners where he resigned.
Oh, I've had 2 more emails since that
Okay.
correspondence.
We could table this till he's here.
Okay.
I would agree with that. I'd like to get a hold of him and see what he would like to do.
Commissioner DeVito?
I'd like to make an observation since this is on the agenda and before we dispose of it. I read Mr. Carmichael's letter. I talked to him. I have plans to meet with him tomorrow to talk more about his letter. But one observation I have is that I'm wondering whether this very, unusual process that we're having to review the land development codes that was not maybe the straw that broke the camel's back. I've been concerned that the chapters in revision are coming to us out of order. We didn't start with the first chapter. And as well, it's very concerning to me that the planning firm does not offer us any kind of introduction or overview. They don't give us anything in writing beforehand. They give us 50 pages to read of something that's not our area of expertise. And they don't provide anything in writing that says, well, we had a workshop to start with that said what our goals were, but they don't give us a roadmap to wading through the 50 to 60 pages. I keep hoping that they will do that because I think it would be easier on us. I think it would give the public something to read when the land development code chapters go up on the website. People have nothing to do but look through 50 pages of a document online, and I think that we owe it to the public to give them some kind of summary of what this is about. And I really think that has been a defect of our process, both for the public, the planning and zoning commissioners, and their commission. So I'm hoping as we go forward that the planners will offer us better guidance and that we can all share.
So we're going to, do you want to reach out to Mr. Carmichael and see if he would like to be put on the agenda at the next meeting for discussion? I think that's the best way than us trying to determine why he decided to step aside. Okay. With that, let's move on to the Miller Middle School update and
Do
discussion.
you want a motion to table that?
Do you want to, do you want to,
I think we should.
you want a motion? Okay.
I make a motion to table that.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
So moved.
Mayor, the next item was put on the agenda, the request of Commissioner DeVito, school board, Miller Middle School update and discussion. Provided a brief summary that the school, actually since this, sent this out, the offer has been accepted. They have purchased the land at Hayfield. They're not going to build a school here in town on Prospect Street. They're planning to carve off the piece of property that goes to the lake as a separate parcel for sale. But no conclusions on the fate of the buildings on the campus. It may need a little bit, particularly the gym during construction, as they transition, and perhaps even in the future, the school facility, but that's unknown at this point. The only thing that's certain is they did, accept the deal for the vacant land west of the city, and they're not going to build a school here in town on Prospect Street.
Commissioner DeVito, is there something else that you wanted to?
Absolutely. Okay, so this is an opportunity for us. It's been up in the air what was going to happen. Some of us have been very concerned about what was going to happen with the historic buildings on the site. The wonderful archives established by CRA Register with the help of the Historical Society, that was closed down, their temporary lease was ended. So there were a couple of different items here, and I asked the city manager to email them to you, and they're printed and on our desk. First of all, in our 5-year strategic plan for Crescent City, the Miller Middle School is mentioned under quality of life livability. Goal, establish welcoming places. The objective was just a very fair work with the school board on the Miller School site. The strategies, one was to communicate our desire for the site to the school board leadership. I think, am I not correct, Charles, you sent out an email, there was a meeting in which we discussed we wanted the waterfront, was that it?
Yeah, early on in the process,
Right.
the water, to extend the park, a boardwalk as a development plan, and frontage on Central.
Right, and the frontage on Central, so, these are, fairly vague, statements, communicate our desire for the site to the school board leadership, and that was done. Now they're selling, the waterfront part is up for sale, correct? Right, that's a very valuable part, and then it says, identify alternative sites for new school, well, the school district took care of that. The third strategy was identify funding source to assist with acquisition of alternative site for the new school. Well, apparently, unbeknownst to us, the school district seemed to have funds to buy a different site because they accepted, and the offer's been accepted. So it occurs to me that we might want to rework our goals and consider what steps we would want to possibly take, given that everything except the south 5 acres is essentially unplanned for as yet. There's the gym, there's the auditorium, and there's the Miller Middle School administration building. Over the past couple of years, when the school left, people in the community, some of them expressed a desire to have the use of the gym for a place to exercise. Some groups expressed a desire that the auditorium would be great as a shared facility. And as well, for a very long time, and in prior visionings, residents have requested a community center. So I think we might want to consider approaching how we view the Miller Middle School site in a different way. Oh, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna mention the middle school site is one of the sites identified in the upcoming master planning process where they'll do conceptual renderings and so forth of potential development on that site for us. So we'll vision it and they'll draw it for us.
But in the meantime, the school district has the ability to dispose of it. And if there are historic properties that could be repurposed for public use, Mr. Bowling, one of the officials at the school district, has told us that the school district is able to give property for public use to another public entity. The challenge would be, for us, would be finding operating funds for partners.
They did indicate they couldn't give us the property, but they won't have to sell it at full value because we are another government entity.
Well, I think he said he could give it to us
It's on what he told me.
recently.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I think it can. But anyway, certainly the public has expressed an interest in that property. The historic buildings could be repurposed for a public use. So we might want to think about that. And as well, and I know we talked about the redevelopment plan. As well, the interlocal agreement that recently came to light, that's between the school district, the counties, and all the cities in Putnam County, that actually provides for participation of cities when the school is being shut down or a new school is being built. And it's my understanding, what apparently is the new school site is going to be very close to the city limits. Is that not correct?
Yes, just outside the city limits.
Right, and so do we anticipate they would be asking us to supply water and things of that nature? So
We already have water and sewer already run there, just gas does not, that's about a half a mile out.
So, the interlocal agreement, that is provided for, the meetings haven't taken place for many years. It just came to light, when we were asking what are the rules. It provides for staff meetings, at the legislative body level, and staff meetings that are public, and for a committee to be set up that allows a city to give input. I would recommend that as a commission, we each read this. As well, there's a specific provision when new schools are being planned. There's a specific provision to coordinate the conversion of school sites to other uses, including to other public uses. So there are very specific steps and considerations that were all written out that could potentially benefit the residents of Crescent City. So I'm hoping that we will do our best to take advantage of those for the benefit of our residents. And Charles, you said you have a meeting on June 14th with the city attorney?
With the school board,
I mean, with the school board
Commissioner
attorney, I'm
Bowling
sorry.
and their attorney.
Right, and so, do you anticipate that to be, a collegial meeting, or what is the topic of that meeting?
The topic is to go through the agreement, what meetings are spelled out there, how can we establish a meeting schedule, and how we move forward with implementation of the agreement.
Okay,
Which is what I think you requested.
absolutely. I mean, let's put it this way, did you get a positive impression, that there would be cooperation?
I said it's my meeting,
Okay,
so, I hesitate to speculate.
well, we hope you do your best, because there are benefits here for the locals, and also it spells out a really nice format of communication, that I think some of us have really been hoping for. You know, it provides how the communication is to take place, which is always good.
Well, I would like some clarification on, whether they can buy it low or get it, or we have to do the operation cost. I've been in contact with the Aviation Institute of Maintenance, Embry-Riddle, a couple other aviation things, and I know to put a technically based school there, train electronics, construction, plumbing, a county, multi-county wide, training facility that's not offered in high schools or anything anymore. It's a technical institute, Aviation Institute. I worked with them many times as an FAA example of a light sport manufacturer in Kansas City. They had a school there that hired local AMPs and things in general. Putting a type institute on those grounds, they can come up with the operating funds to do that. They hire people, bring in students from out of town. I can see that as a multifaceted institute of technology to broaden any kind of technical thing, not only for Butler County, but Volusia, Flagler, they can all send students in.
I personally think we can get that out of our mind about school, just turn it over to the city. There's gonna have to be some funds. If you notice, when Palaca tried to get Jenkins, it was a whole uproar about that, and it didn't take place. If you go down to Volusia County, they started right there in Seaville. They didn't give that to Seaville. You going on down there to Pearson, they didn't give that to the Pearson city. So ain't no sense in get that in our mind, but they're gonna give it, they might give it to us at a lower rate. Yeah.
I believe that.
Yeah, they might help us in that way. Cause if I'm not mistaken, that's the way they offered it Jenkins, portion of Jenkins to, Palaca.
Now, my thought on that is the city could get it at a lower rate. I doubt that they would give it to the Aviation Institute of Maintenance at a lower rate. Maybe we would be the leasing or something like that for the facilities. And they come up with the funds to operate, keep maintenance and upkeep on it. It's something to at least pursue where we've got access to students, teachers. They're gonna have a place to stay. I mean, let's be real, this is in our society right now, college isn't for everybody. And where do you go right now to go to welding school? I'm teaching kids out of high school welding right now, and they need places like that. We can supply that with this institution.
Mr. Laurie, it looks like you wanted to say something.
Yeah. You don't mind? All right. Filling out that form and every time you read it. I think, I know I've been involved personally because of the Peninsula Historical Society. It was a big deal to have the archives down there and occupy the media center. And I went to school with that school, a lot of this in this room have. There's a lot that can be done with that building and that site. It is right in the middle of our National Register Historic District, right in the middle of a very nice residential neighborhood, which is one of the reasons why it's great that they're building a school out there. But it's up to the city really to kind of guide us into something to be done with that. And if we take the whole question of whether they'll give it to us or not, and just look at how can we make this happen, then we can all come together, we can all brainstorm, and we can look for funding, because there is funding out there. And like Commissioner Banks mentioned, the Pearson Elementary School that's right there in Middletown, they didn't get it for free, but they got it for $90,000.
Yeah.
That's not unbelievable for amount of money. Now, if the school district wants $4 million, like the appraisal is, that's ridiculous. But I think that we just need to have maybe a roundtable, let's have a workshop, and let's brainstorm and figure out what we can do and how we can do it, instead of saying, should we do it or shouldn't we do it? I mean, because there's, a positive vision here, we've all talked about this. We know that for the last 2 years, we made use of the site. Is the sheriff's department still down in there? Sir? So they're obviously there. This building we already know is not really sized well for City Hall, correct? Kind of bursting at the seams here, we've got people over there. We could sell this building, move City Hall there, and there's plenty of room in that building. It's a lot stronger, a lot better. I mean, and really right now in today's world, we talk about sustainability. Let's not just tear that building down or let somebody else tear it down and build something else. There's a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of energy that went into those buildings. And I can't imagine us not turning it into something like a community center, be the center of this town, as something that can be used properly and used by everyone and enjoyed. Because it just pains me to think that we're just gonna leave it alone and let them do something with it instead of taking the lead and going after it. So, thank you.
I agree. I think we should have a workshop and have different businesses and stuff back that try and get, for right now, for instance, what you just said is perfectly right. The aviation to the maintenance right now is getting companies of aviation who are paying the kids' colleges and education to get them to come to work with them after graduation. Those types of things, and electrical contractors would do that. We could get funds together with the workshop, I'm sure, if we bought it at a reduced rate. I don't think there's any reason why we shouldn't workshop it and try to get it.
Well, BJ said a lot of what I was gonna say. Veronica Glover, 512 Grand Roundabout East. I know Mr. Banks was saying they did purchase the building, the city of Palaca did purchase that building, because I remember when all of that was going on. There is a lot that could be done with that building. Community center, recreation for our youth that's running around during the summer. We cannot forget them. We always have a tendency to forget our youth in this community. So we could continue recreation with that, having that gym, plays. There's a lot of things that could go in the auditorium, and we need to preserve it because of the historical part of it. But I kind of got up because when we talk about the school, I know how hard the community has fought to keep that building and for the district not to build another school there. But at the same time, I need to bring something to your attention because you're taxpayers. As an educator and every day I'm there, your voices need to be heard at the district of how our children are not getting the services that they deserve. He said about putting a program now. We have the best welding program in this school district. They always beat everyone out certifying students every year. We are top notch. We have a great welding teacher, but what we are missing mechanics, other electives that our students are missing there. So that is something that we need to be fighting the district on. Because no matter if you have a child or not in school, you pay taxes. And our kids are not getting those programs. So that's kind of why I got up to inform you all about that. We fought hard trying to get the district not to rebuild there, but what they're building here as taxpayers, we need to make sure that our children are being properly, educated, on not just welding. We need, auto mechanics here. We need all of those things that our students don't get. The other schools in the district, they are getting all of those electives, but our students are not. So, and that's why I kind of stood up when he said that.
Ms. Lever, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
real fast? Have you heard, because, I've heard that mentioned that they were bringing, Charles, I believe you might have even been there too and heard that they were looking to bring an aviation program to the high school. Have you heard if they're still on board with that? Okay.
I haven't
To help-
heard that, but I know that they were going to bring additional stuff, but I didn't hear anything about the aviation.
Yeah, that was mentioned, that they were looking to do that, something that they could segue, so the students could segue out of that into the
Yeah,
aeronautical.
I'm not saying that they didn't.
No,
but
I just didn't
that's-
know if you had heard that.
No,
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
With public comments done.
Yes, sir.
Madam President, Charles Penn. About 1 million years ago, I attended that school. And it strikes me that this is one contiguous piece of property. The county, the school board may be wanting to cut off 5 acres of waterfront separately, but why would we not be trying to get that as well? But Crescent City is going to expand. Crescent City is going to draw people for special events, going to draw people on a day-to-day usage basis. You've got waterfront there on navigable water. Crescent Lake is a navigable water. It used to have, I think it was markers 4, markers 5, or maybe 3 and 4, right in Crescent Lake, that marked the channel and was maintained by the Coast Guard. It would seem to me that looking over the horizon at the future of Crescent City, you would not want to be cut off with a piece of land that you're being offered. You would not want to be cut off from the waterfront by a private development or condominiums or something of this nature. The waterfront is a draw for the future use of the public. We're the largest town between Pulaski and DeLand. We're the only real town between Pulaski and DeLand. And it is one more natural feature that we can use to draw people here, draw the right kind of people here, draw the right kind of money here, draw the right kind of tourism here. And also, when you look at that extra 5 acres, you just have a great deal more flexibility with what you can do, great deal more possibility in what you can do with that overall contiguous piece of land, besides just rebuilding the school. And you can make that multi-use. Also, if I remember right, that's a registered fallout shelter. That building is built to last. So, some things I think that you might want to consider. And if it's, look, you go out for grant money for every other doggone thing under the sun. Why not find grant money to meet the requirements to purchase that piece of property? And purchase it as one big piece and have the greatest possible use available for the people of this town, not only today, but when we're all gone from here. Preserve it for the future. Don't let condominiums be built there. Don't let somebody's private marina be built there. That stuff's coming. They're building a boat storage facility that looks like it'll hold about 200 boats up in East Blackford right now. Development is coming here. Why not preserve what you've got and control your assets, control your real estate, control your future by holding on to this particular piece of land? This is significant. I would strongly recommend that the city do everything possible not to allow this 5 acre to be separated away.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Do we have any other speakers on this?
I'll just take a few minutes.
You can have 3.
Okay, George Miller, 1 Lake Shore Drive. I'm very encouraged about this discussion. I was hoping it would really, that is a very sound building, and I hope the city manager in subsequent meetings with the school board, whatever mechanism it takes, that building, instead of just sitting there, it has so much potential. I mean, as Doc pointed out, there's a lot of kids here that need to go into the trades. There's a worldwide shortage of machinists. There's retired machinists that have run machine shops around here that would happily teach kids, how to run a lathe and build a machine. And those people make 6 digits in aircraft industry. I mean, and adult education, I'm old enough to remember my uncle teaching World War II vets to get their GED at night school. It's an adult education. A lot of them didn't have a chance to, when that war started, didn't have a chance to finish high school. And he taught at night school there. It's a very sound building. It's been well maintained. And I hope this body is very successful with hopefully getting it at low cost. And I have to agree, there's grants available. And kids, not all of them are going to college. And a lot of them can, get into the skills and trades. And there's people around here who are retired that had many, many years as a machinist or welder in the electronics industry that can provide classes for students out of the high school and the extension, or people that want to get back in the workforce. So I'm encouraged by this discussion, and I hope this is fruitful. Thank you.
One thing I would like to say about the high school aviation program, I'm a little familiar with it as of late. The high school contacted a really good friend of mine, James Goolby, who lives in Eagles Nest. He asked me if I would help him a little bit with that. They are looking for an aviation instructor. And Mr. Benham, I think this might be up your alley, being a Navy helicopter pilot. They are looking for a thing. They contacted me because I'm still the prime supporter of an aviation explorers group, Post 491 in DeLand. I actually was the first instructor for their high school to get started and donated the first airplane. I did that 5 years ago, and they have 42 kids from Spruce Creek going to the aviation program. And I did that with all volunteers from the EAA chapter number 91 in DeLand, who are the retired aviation professionals teaching those kids. We can do it, and you can do it right out of that place over there.
Elizabeth Gomez, 19 Cedar Street. And it just dawned on me that when I moved here a year and a half ago, the drama that was going on that I encountered, that you guys were saying that because of COVID, this happened underneath you and you didn't have no way of knowing what went on. And I'm just in awe right now. You can look at each other and I applaud all the time because you've done this. Imagination creates reality. Just keep dreaming what you want for that piece of land and it's gonna happen. I just think you should be very proud because I have witnessed this. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Gerald Watson, 404 North Lake Street. Great discussion. Just a couple of things. One, with regard to the use of the facility, the key point I think that was made is worth reiterating is you get the acquisition cost, whatever that might wind up being within the operating cost, which is pointed out, which is a key thing. Something to look at and ways to continue to regenerate that. Second is looking at some innovative out-of-the-box ideas for public-private partnership. You can bring, where industry can come in who has a vested long-term interest in being a partner in the development. I think the idea, the concept of whether it's aviation or whatever it is, combining that with some trade school type of programming definitely makes sense. Along with that, I would suggest that taking a look at better understanding what the district's plans are for the development of the high school. I had a chance to visit with Dr. Stearns about a month or so ago, and one of the things we talked about was the high school, and the plans there are, in fact, to develop it in phases. And one of the phases, in fact, is going to involve developing a whole trade school type programming. So I think with that and better understanding what their programming is, looking into where we can complement, supplement, there as an extension of or in partnership with, so that we're not duplicating, so that it all kind of makes sense. You know, the idea of tying in, certain community services, with community center, community service facilities, both with young people as well as seniors, you know, both sides, right? You know, we all have respective needs, and we got a great facility there, really, but a pool, which would not be easy to drop in. And I think another point that was made, which I think makes a lot of sense, is, you know, right now we have our arms around, nothing's really happened yet. And, you know, that piece of land on the water is in fact carved out and sold out. We lose control, could potentially change the face and feel of, you know, of our community, depending upon the direction that it goes. And so now's the time we have the opportunity to actively participate in one of the suggestions, and I don't know what the plan is, but and I think this, the district will be open to the idea of having some kind of, for lack of a better word, commission, if you will, where you got representatives from the community working in partnership with them to look at development plans and options. I don't think they would resist that, but I think that what it requires us is to take the leadership in stepping up and proposing that to them. I think they'd be real open to it. So that's it.
Charles, could you, when you meet with Mr. Bowling, just so that we know kind of what we're dealing with over there, you can get a layout of those buildings. I know that, I believe the big building that was the asbestos remedy was significant in price. But if you could kind of get a layout for what they're looking at over there. There's waterfront, but there's not a tremendous amount of waterfront. So that, you know.
It's a bluff.
Yeah, it's more of a bluff. So that if you could get that from him, if you could kind of break those buildings down for us. That would be helpful. That would be helpful. That way we know kind of what we're even doing with over there.
Americans will, the commission, we could schedule a public input workshop. The purpose is just to take it all down, everybody bring their ideas for that site. We'll go through that, but not for a couple months yet with the master plan process, but we could go ahead and start collecting that input from public. You want to decide on a date?
Thank you.
Yes,
That would be gonna be my motion, that based on the public response, that we schedule a workshop. And that also, we look into what resources we might have, to go for a grant writer. But I think it sounds like we need to schedule a workshop before we leave tonight.
And I think we also need to, as we go into a workshop, we kind of need to know what we're dealing with over there, what we got. Okay. So you're gonna make a motion, please?
Yes, I move that, we schedule a public workshop, to receive input on, the community interest, and the different uses that might be had for the local school property.
Can you include a date with that? That's the hardest part.
Okay, so we want to schedule it now?
That'd be a good idea.
Okay.
It could be this month.
We used to do that at the end of the meetings. I don't know. We have a calendar, I think,
In your
somewhere
packet, yeah.
In your packet.
in our packet. Yeah, if you look in the little folder in the front, we have, what's already scheduled.
I know Commissioner Bailey said he can't do fourth Thursday, but we have a fifth Thursday this month.
There, let's do that.
Would that work for everyone, a fifth Thursday? That's the 29th of June.
Is Wednesday the 28th possibly open?
Wednesdays we're not. I can't, that Wednesday.
I can't do that.
Wednesday kind of runs into, especially if you're gonna do it in the evening, Wednesday runs into, there's a lot of people, the church, and I know we've got, what's that, the game we play at 3 p.m.
Mr. DeVito, you would know on the 29th.
You can tell I'm not, you
It
can
would
tell
be
I'm not a
very
game player.
difficult. It would be very difficult to do the 29th.
Trivia.
Because that's running into the July 4th weekend. We have, the Thursday, July 6th is taken up.
Yeah, we have a lot of workshops right now.
Right, is it possible to do Tuesday the 27th? Or the code board's at 5:30,
Yes.
and I'm assuming we need to do this in the evening.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we're gonna need to do it so that people can be there. That's why I said Wednesday nights are not gonna be good.
Right, well,
Tuesday the 20th,
Nope, I can't do that.
can't do that.
No, I've got a catering job at 20 that day.
What about Tuesday, July 18th? Oh, never mind.
can't do that. Well, we're pushing it all the way out to July.
Well, I'm just.
Right,
The dates.
well, I will say, what is today? Today is, Thursday, June 8th. It's a community workshop. If I can be here or if I can't, why don't we just go ahead and put it on Thursday the 29th?
Okay.
Right, because this is mainly for the public, correct?
Yes. For their input, I would think we would just take down, maybe we put up the pages and people can,
Well, I was thinking more like a facilitated
yes,
participatory workshop, not a commission workshop.
correct, yes.
Okay. That's fine.
What time? I'm sorry. I didn't get time.
6 o'clock, so people come after work.
Thank you.
Good idea.
Yep, and good time.
So you want to include that in your motion?
Yes, and the workshop should take place, Thursday, June 29th at 6 PM at City Hall. Is this gonna be big enough?
Yes.
Yes.
Do we think?
They can, some of them, they can kind of go too, they can, we have vignettes, depending on how they do it.
Yeah, it won't necessarily be a presentation, you can, you say, make your piece, say your piece and go.
I need a second, Commissioners?
second.
Okay, I'm gonna give it to Commissioner Bailey, he was, so we've got a proper motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion, Commissioners? Not, I'm gonna say, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, so
While we got a break, I'd like to make one comment if I may, Mayor.
yes.
I wouldn't be so worried about, the building and the asbestos aspect. I was involved in a Randy Couture Center in Kansas City where there was asbestos in the building, older building like this one. But as long as it's not shedding and then deteriorated, you're all right. Then the cost is exorbitant. But they can even reseal the asbestos contained in the resealing thing and it lasts for decades. They do a part per million asbestos thing in the air to give you that kind of quality and that costs you $200. So you'll be able to know right away, even though the building, sometimes it's a scare tactic, or you don't want that building's got asbestos in it. That's not necessarily true. It's not necessarily gonna cost the city a bunch
Well,
of
they've
money.
done an assessment, so that's why I wanna know what they've assessed, so, okay. With that, let's go ahead and move on to, item animal control update
Thank you,
discussion.
Mayor. This item is also on the agenda, the requested Commissioner DeVito for an update. We have a workshop. You gave us direction to look at, for our attorney to look at how we can have our code enforcement officer perhaps issue citations, and how we can put, no pun intended, more teeth into the ordinance. So Bobby did look at that, came back, and recommends that we work with the sheriff's office for those citations. And that currently it's a $500 fine, thought that was ample. But it's up to you to give us direction how you may want to amend our ordinance.
How many of these fines have we ever issued?
Probably zero animal fines, any animal citations. Done it since I've been here.
I don't have a copy of what the fines are with these,
We haven't issued any citations for animal related issues.
Yes,
yes, I believe we issued one that I know so far.
and it was $100, I believe that was $100, correct? That was $100.
It's been a while back.
It was the road, it was the street directly behind the elementary school.
Yes.
With the loose dogs. He came in and paid that.
Mayor, if I could respond to Commissioner Bailey. When we asked about the citations, when we had the workshop, because I reread the minutes and we had the clear direction to, as the kind of the city manager made, to put more teeth in it. It was Commissioner Bailey who said, can we give our code enforcement officer a citation book? So that was his suggestion. And the idea was that the county is not willing to enforce our more detailed ordinance. The county, in fact, is not able to even fully enforce their own ordinance. So we wanted to see if there was something we could do, and I think it was both for the loose animals and the noise-making animals, barking dogs. But the idea is we would have fines, and then we would have someone to issue citations. And that was how far we took it. So my request to have it on the agenda was so we could make sure that, that we actually did this, that if staff is looking for direction, that we would ask them to bring us something back. Because right now, as I understand it, our code officer doesn't have the authority to write citations, like Mr. Bailey said, give her that. And then, the sheriff doesn't normally enforce our ordinances. So, so Bobby's suggestion is that we ask that we work with the sheriff and let them do the citation. My suggestion would be that we allow our code officer, give her the ability and discretion to issue citations. Perhaps when there's an issue, that's not dangerous for her to approach, like a homeowner with a barking dog or a nuisance problem or something. But anyway, I would just like to see us follow through on that aspect of the workshop.
So the only comment I had, the only thing we ran into was how far we pushed the citations. We do issue city citations, and whoever you select to do that, it's code enforcement, that's up to you guys. The problem we were facing is how far we were willing to push the citation. It's great, you come down here, you pay the fine, and that's the end of it. The other issue we were seeing is that once the citation is issued, if and when it is challenged, it is up to the commission to see that they have legal counsel. So you have to provide them an attorney, and it becomes costly. So that was one of the issues that we ran into was, is the $100 dog complaint worth going all the way through the court proceedings? So that was the only issue we had. We do issue those citations and enforce the citations of the city, yes.
Mayor, I have another question for the sheriff.
I think Commissioner Banks asked if he could first.
Yes, sir.
Somebody have your phone?
I really think we need to let the citation go with the star. Just don't create something else. I don't want to put her out there and damage. We live in a world that don't care nothing about nobody. They don't have to respect the stars. So if we recommend, get her authority to write a ticket, I think that's the wrong, that's just personal for me, I think that's the wrong step to take.
Well, I think she also issues citations on code ordinance violations as well, correct? It'd be the same thing. So if she did go issue a citation to someone, you guys got to give her the authority that, and I'll refer you to your legal counsel on that. It would be just like anything else. If somebody was giving her some trouble, then she would call us and say, hey, this is what we want to do, and we would step in and help her take action there. Provide security. That's up to you guys.
Commissioner DeVito.
I tend to agree with Commissioner Banks about, and then I do have a question for you. I tend to agree with Commissioner Banks about taking Bobby's recommendation to give the citation authority to the sheriff, because in my experience, when a law enforcement officer approaches somebody about their animal, they get a lot of attention, just right off the bat. The minute they start saying something, the law enforcement officer gets attention. But my question was, I think this idea of having citations or, doing something to enforce our animal ordinance came up because I think, either one of the commissioners or the city attorney or both said that route seemed to be very effective with our noise ordinance, that we got results from that. Was that not right? The being able to issue citations and that got people's attention and has had an impact on the noise problem.
So not just the noise problem, but the dog and animal problem as well. I think the efforts between everybody involved, even the mayor running the streets with us, trying to get control of that situation. Do I think a citation is always the answer? No, I think education and trying to fix the root of the problem is. But at the end of the day, if a citation needs to be issued, then a citation needs to be issued and then the process starts. But yes, I think that is part of the correcting something is going through those phases, and the citations is a part of that. So yes, that is all part of the process, correct?
Sort of, right, not a silver bullet, but just one more thing you can do.
Right, correct.
Okay.
And we did do that with our noise ordinance.
Right, that was.
We increased the fees and that, and it not only applies to the person holding the party, but the homeowner also. So multiple people can get that if the homeowner is not there and somebody's having a party there. So that has been a deterrent.
Captain, I thought I heard you say that, if a citation be issued and it got to go to court, we got to, get a lawyer to represent. Well, why we got told it?
Because if we're issuing a citation.
No, we pay double money, y'all. Maybe I'm looking at it the wrong way.
Can you speak to that?
So we're issuing a citation that is a city ordinance.
Oh, I understand that. I understand.
That's civil, that's a civil. Okay.
You want me to jump in on this?
Yes, please.
Under Florida statute, if you criminalize a local ordinance, municipal ordinance, essentially what you're making it into is a second-degree misdemeanor. In that particular case, if you charge someone by citation or otherwise, they have to go to county criminal court. In that court, their city attorney becomes the prosecutor in the case, unless there's an agreement with the local state attorney's office to handle those cases. And having been there, I can tell you they don't. Okay. In that particular case, when it is a criminal citation, then the city is responsible for paying for a public defender for the accused party if they so qualify. If it is a civil citation, $100, $250, $500, whatever it is for a civil violation, they're not entitled for the city to pay for their defense. That is not a criminal act. That is a civil citation, just like you get for the blinker not working on your car when we pulled you over, or parking in the wrong direction, failure to yield at an intersection. Does that make more sense? Well, why, I'm kind of confused, because let's say he writes a ticket for a blinker out here. We don't hire you to prosecute that ticket. No, that's a non-criminal citation issued on a state law. Okay, this is where you have taken a municipal ordinance. If you criminalize it, maybe that's not the right word, when you make it into a criminal code, i.e. is punishable by some form of up to 60 days of jail or fine. That's when your city attorney is responsible for the prosecution of it, and if they qualify for a public defender, you're required to pay for that public defender. Most of what you're talking about right now is our municipal codes that are still civil in nature, fining someone for an act that's in violation of the code. So your city attorney doesn't go to county court to enforce it. They come down and pay the fine, or you have to have a mechanism in your code how to handle it. Most utilize a magistrate, the local magistrate, which is when Bobby and I were talking about this, and when he was researching it, there were a couple of reasons why I think I made the recommendation the way we did. One is the safety of your code enforcement officer. Okay, which is one reason why we lean towards law enforcement. Two, the commission expressed a concern about educating people, especially on the ordinances. A warning citation is one way of doing that, or law enforcement explaining to them what the local code is. They have that discretion. These guys are pretty good at using that discretion to educate and necessary issuing a fine. The biggest problem we find is the enforcement of the fine.
if the mechanism just simply ends in the code that you can issue a citation if they don't pay it, oh well, then you're getting nowhere. If you have a mechanism within your code, within your ordinance, that allows someone who doesn't pay by a certain time to be brought before a local magistrate, and if that doesn't happen, it can be converted into a civil lien, you do code enforcement. Then you have a little more teeth to it.
And we would bear the cost of the magistrate.
You would.
Now, could those costs, like court costs, be forwarded to the citation person?
No.
Why?
The cost for them is the fine.
But don't when we go up, pay court costs and things like that, isn't that part of?
Well, the only court cost you have is the magistrate's fee. So that is
My question is, could the court award?
not that I'm aware of. I don't know if there's-
I'm just experimenting, going, hey, look, if.
I'll be happy to
like
look into
this
that for you though.
and look at it, going, look, you'll be liable for the attorney's fees too.
I understand,
It's a
but
deterrent.
in the state of Florida, if it's not in the statute or in the written contract, in this case, we're not talking about a contract, we'd be talking about local ordinance, and I'd have to see if we have the authority to do that. Under state law, is usually where attorney's fees are covered. But we'll take a look at that.
Commissioner.
Yeah, I just have a quick question. What happened to the animal control officer of Putnam County in this discussion? Have you taken him right out of the equation, or it seems like we've taken him out of the equation and we're sticking in our sheriff and we're sticking in our code enforcement? What happened to working with our animal control, division, I guess if that's what you want to call it, and that officer? Because I think South Putnam could use one in South Putnam, you know, like all the time. I mean, because we do definitely have an issue here. So I'm not sure how we all of a sudden
Hold on a second,
circumvent
I'm
that.
gonna ask, we've got some, it's hard for us to hear up here, we've got some conversations going out there, so please, if y'all can, just kind of hold it down a little bit, thank you.
That's my only question. I don't know, it just seems like we made a right-hand turn or something.
I think this, I'm sorry, Commissioner.
Personally, I think we need to try to keep our, out of it. The, code enforcement, people who get on and put her in danger, so just keep her out of it, let the sheriff off of them. And that, then we want to worry about, you know, lawyer fee and this and that. Whether we send our lawyer up there, our city lawyer, we still have to pay them. So why bother with it?
Well, I have a little different opinion, if I may. I think it can be a little bit of a meld of both. As you were saying earlier, and as the code enforcement, I don't think it's a good idea, just like I didn't think it was a good idea for minimum standards to have the code enforcement lady try to go in someone's house. I don't think the code enforcement lady needs to be going out trying to serve that, but I think she could be the first line of defense if someone to call, and after the 5th time Snuffy's been out and killed cats in front of everybody, call you. And then, right, nobody says that you need to be a first or second offense. That's you guys' discretion, you know, after the 5th or 6th time, I think you know it's time to pursue a $400 or $500 fine. 1 or 2, we write the warnings and, gee, let's pick up your dog, or next time we'll take him to the pound, you can pay to get him out, or whatever you want to do, but I don't think her being the first line of defense and writing citations is the answer, but I do think that if she has to, and it's required to go ahead and call you and issue those citations, and, you know, after 3 or 4 citations, if they don't work, we got a problem.
We have to put the right people in place. I mean, interlocking was a very good example of citation after citation, or, and the post office mistress was killed. Just this last week, a 87-year-old was out in her driveway, putting away her groceries, and 2 dogs took her down, ripped her leg off, 1 ear off, and attacked her in the throat, so she's now recovering in the hospital. We need trained people to deal. We need something in place that's gonna be strong to deal with dogs that are consistently being a, let's say, problem. I don't think it's our code enforcement officer going and writing citation, I guess, that's just my opinion. That's all.
Mayor, can I
Yes.
interject here? The idea was, A, not to displace county animal control. You know, we had the workshop, they're available, they will enforce, the ordinance to a point. They're short of people, they're short of space. And the original idea that we agreed to in our workshop, and we said the city attorney should write something, was, to provide just a little extra bit, as Captain Essery said, just a little extra something of enforcement, as the county works through its issues. And if you read the latest news story that I think Ms. Cavaccini did, the county has a lot of issues. They have a long way to go until apparently they have enough trained personnel to take care of this. So this is a small thing to do, but it's something that we can do to just try to get a little more control in the city. And we are more in control here in the city because people drive in here from outside the city limits to go walking to be safe. So my recommendation is that we give direction, there seems to be more consensus, to let the city attorney draft whatever it is he had in mind to follow our direction in the workshop, but to take a suggestion and give the citation authority to the sheriff and work with them as much as possible. It's not gonna solve the whole problem, but it's the best we can do at this point.
Do we want to, make a motion? So does somebody want to make a motion that we direct staff to update that ordinance?
I'm happy to do so. I would move that we direct Bobby Pickens to update our ordinance to give more enforcement authority and to take his suggestion to give the citation authority to the sheriff's office.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. George, do you need to say something?
I just want to make sure I have clarification on this. You want us to review the current ordinance you have for animal control as far as the punishment part and make recommendations about how we could change, for lack of a better word, punishment for violations of said code to add some quote unquote teeth to it for the time being.
Yes, and I think that
Pun
would,
intended.
I think that was already in the contract, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I believe it is. I'm pretty sure it is in the contract.
What's that?
Take a look.
The sheriff's office would assist with enforcing
Animal control,
ordinances.
yes, all animals.
I think it was just with enforcing ordinances.
Does that include looking at criminalizing any of the code to make an actual criminal offense?
well, it was Bobby's recommendation, so whatever he had in mind, let him bring it to us. I mean, I don't think we need to hash it out here tonight, we're just giving him direction to bring us something, then there would be a first reading.
What's the deadline to get back to you on this? Okay.
All right, well, we have to advertise it. Karen, what would be the advertising deadline?
Oh, that's changed with the new day.
Changed with the new times and what I'm looking at. July 13th is the next meeting, so it would have to be in no later than Monday, June 26th.
Oh,
So it would be advertised on, I'm sorry, Commissioner Vito, so it would be advertised on June 28th, which would give us 14 days that needed to be advertised.
Well, I mean, I wasn't intending to put a time limit in my motion, I assumed y'all would do it when we're able.
Yeah.
And.
I know you have some scheduling conflicts in the rest of this month, so whenever he is.
Yeah, I don't anticipate it'll take us very long, so if we can leave that open, we'll try to
Yes.
get it in shortly thereafter. I doubt it'll be in time for the deadline for the next meeting, but it won't be that long after.
With that, so we have a motion and a second. I have, a speaker. I know I have at least one speaker on this. Ms. Diane Kelly, if you'd like to come forward. Please, here.
Thank you very much, Diane Kelly, 123 Lakeside Lane, Crescent City, Florida. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I just want to make an observation as it relates to animal control / welfare, and then also offer a partial solution. One of the things that I've observed very consistently, looking at not only social media, but also in talking with people, is the community here in Crescent City. Most people really do love their animals. Some are irresponsible. Glad to hear that we're looking at holding people more accountable, because that has to happen. Because animals shouldn't die, people shouldn't die because of lack of care. So people who love their animals, you can't look at social media a single day and not see where somebody's animal is out, or all these cats are wandering the neighborhood, or these stray dogs are found. You won't find a day where you don't see that. And people, their hearts are bleeding. It's a serious issue in Putnam County and certainly in Crescent City. So that is an observation. Another observation, and then I'll get into a partial solution, which I'd like to offer my help. Another observation is, and I was really bummed when I saw this, when I looked at the notes for this meeting, I saw where one individual, and I understand everybody has different opinions and I respect it, but one individual here on the commission indicated that perhaps, one suggestion might be if an animal is old and maybe sick and brought to animal control, can maybe they authorize to just have their animal put to sleep? And I'm thinking, golly, Pete, leaders solve problems. They don't kill them, they solve them. Particularly animals, people love them generally. And I see nonverbals, I understand it, different opinions, I get it. But your community loves their animals. I want to be part of the solution. I do grant writing for Animal Rescue Consortium, or many of you may know them. Many of you, I don't know if you've heard that they do low-cost vaccinations now. They've done a lot with spay-neuter vouchers for your community. I helped to make that possible through many grants. I've been able to get them about $50,000 worth of money and in-kind donations. So I'm also helping to feed animals in the city limits of Crescent City. That's something I feel I should do. I need to be part of the solution. I want to help you solve this problem. I'm working with an organization, and I'm going to be meeting with Ms. Myers, and I'm looking forward to it on Tuesday. But working with an organization to potentially get a grant for a spay-neuter capability here in Crescent City. It's right outside the city limit. It would be with ARC. And I just want to partner with you all. I may be able to get funding for 75% of it, but maybe not all of it. But it is a solution to help animal control so that our animals and our citizens can definitely have a better future with their four-legged family members. So I wanted to share the observation, offer my help to try to solve it. I can't solve it by myself, but I can help solve it. So I wanted to put that out there. And I want to thank you for the time. Thank you.
Do we have any other speakers? Okay, there's no other speakers. Commissioners, do we have any others? Otherwise, I have a proper motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. So moved. Okay, then we want to go on to the consideration of the chickens.
Thank you, Mayor. This item has been brought back to you, brought up a few months ago. So we brought back some examples from other communities in your packet. Again, not for a decision tonight, other than perhaps direction for us to bring you back a formal ordinance for your consideration at first draft, which would essentially allow hens, and up to a fixed number, you decide the number of hens, 6 as an example, and they're penned and so forth. And you'll see the ordinances cover the type of coops and so forth that are allowed. Just manages, gives people the opportunity, if there's a desire, I think, in members of the community to have chickens, the eggs. And this would facilitate that. So we just have to look for direction to bring back an ordinance.
And just for the audience, we've had several residents have asked about this, especially with the price of eggs right now, and this would not include roosters at all. This would only be for a few of the chickens on the property.
No, change it to one clock.
I'll make a motion. I move to adopt the city of Maitland's ordinance that defines keeping live poultry and bring that back as a Crescent City ordinance to be discussed and decided at the next Crescent City Commission meeting.
Okay, we have a motion.
We have a second?
Yes, I'll second that.
So the motion would be to draft rather than adopt, would be to draft an ordinance based on Maitland's.
Yes.
I thought it was to adopt the one from other cities.
That is another thing.
We didn't advertise, that we would be adopting the ordinance tonight, so we're good. So we'll bring it back to draft, yeah.
Mayor, I have a question and
We're gonna have this for discussion. Go ahead.
okay, so I looked through all the ordinances, I didn't choose a particular one that I liked. I looked to see, the elements that I thought were the most important. So I don't remember exactly what Maitland's was. Could I ask Commissioner Burton just a short version of why she prefers Maitland's?
Do you have Maitland's in front of you?
Sure.
It should be in your packet.
Right, but I don't know what about Maitland, jumped out at Commissioner Burton.
Commissioner Burton?
Well, first of all, you have to obtain a permit. Plus, the city will have to, be permitted to perform the follow-up inspections, on the premises to make sure that the permits have been issued for keeping chickens, so I kind of like that. It should be permitted as an accessory with single-family resident zoning designations. And they go on and say RS1, RS1A, et cetera, you can read that. Where the lot or parcel is occupied by a single-family detached residence. Chickens shall not be kept at a private townhome, duplex, condominium, apartment, or other multifamily residential unit.
Okay, that is it for me. I just want to.
I can go on, I think it's a
No,
very well written.
It's okay, so you like
One of the
that one?
other things with
Right.
it, also is that there's only a limited amount of permits. Now, they have 50, but I'm wondering if we need to lower that.
They have a lot.
They have a lot more people,
Right.
they have a lot more people, so that's something for everyone to consider as we get forward with this, because we want to keep.
So once you reach 50, then no one can apply after that.
No, they can, so what happens is, if they no longer want to have the chickens, they have to relinquish their permit, and then the next person in line, so you can have like a waiting, I guess you can have a wait. And they do this a lot of times, they'll do this sometimes, I know on beaches, they'll do this, there's only a certain amount of permits they'll give for automobiles that can actually drive on the beach. They have different things that they'll give a limited number, within the city.
Environment.
Mayor, I just had, I have one item that,
Yes.
I mean, they were all pretty good. Maitland's is fine. And I don't know if this was included, but, one provision that I saw that I think is important, is that you're prohibited from setting your, chickens loose. You may not free them.
Shall be housed at all times within a covered tube or fenced pen area.
They can't become range chickens.
Well, there's one ordinance that has a specific prohibition. If you get tired of them, you are not allowed to set them free. And I think that might be a very important provision, if it's not in Maitland's, to include that, so that people know they can't just, they can't just turn their chicken back to the wild.
Well, and then I have an issue with the feed. These people are trying to get chickens to raise the same amount of eggs. $50 to get a feed seems a little.
Well, I think that that's up for discussion.
Right, and first reading, yeah, I mean, nothing is hard and fast, but as long as someone's writing, I just didn't want, I thought it might be a good idea to add the prohibition about freeing your chickens.
And this one keeps a maximum of only 4 chickens, so you can only have 4 chickens there, and it has to be in a coop, within a coop.
Is it good? So, did Commissioner Burton make a motion?
He did.
Yes, discussion, okay. I call
We
the
have a
question.
motion and a second.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to make sure that we don't have, before we do this, if we have any public input. I know someone came in today and spoke, or mentioned to us, you know, we do have that 250 foot, for livestock. And so I just want to make sure. So if we have any public input at this time, we'll go ahead and entertain it, please. If you want to come forward.
Okay. I'm back. Charles Bell. Really, from what you're saying, adopting the other cities' ordinance, whoever, first just gets the mostest in the permitting process. And that seems to be, if it's not a problem, why permit it? I mean, you don't charge people a permit to park their cars in the driveway. We assume that if they have a car, they can park it in their driveway and it's not hurt anybody. On this particular case, if somebody's 3, 4, 5 laying hens, which is plenty for most of the families I know, if they're not a problem, then why create a problem? Why charge people a permit in the first place to try and feed their families? Why trouble them with getting a permit or limit the number of permits when you have so many families that are trying to feed themselves and the price of everything is going up so rapidly? And why grow the government? Why add to your burden if there's not a complaint? Save resources in terms of inspecting properties until there's actually a complaint. If my neighbor has got 3 roosters and I choose to complain, then inspect that. If he's not maintaining a proper hen house and his hens get over into my yard, well, maybe they'll lay me some eggs over in my yard. But if it becomes a problem to me, then I can file a complaint and your codes enforcement or your animal control or whoever can go out there and deal with it. But why add to your burden? Why borrow worry? I yield.
Well, it would be up
Thank
for
you.
discussion.
Thank you. Anybody else that would like to speak? Mr. Laurie, would you like to speak?
BJ Lawyer, 505 Manuel Avenue. Kind of in the vein of what he's saying, we are making this much more complicated. If you look at these rules, it's the maximum height of the coop, and it has to be this high and 100 square feet and all this stuff. I mean, our current code allows for poultry to be as long as within 250 feet of your neighbor. That's what it says. That's all there is. And they can't make any noise that's annoying. So that kind of covers it. Well, I don't know, why are we charging $50 and we're gonna inspect coops and all this stuff? I mean, I hate to say it, but I kind of agree. It just seems like we're making a big deal out of something that's easy. And $50, I mean, I know eggs are expensive, but at $50, that's gonna take you an awful long time to make up that $50.
Let's say it right now, but.
This vote tonight is not to do anything really. It's gonna give us a starting point to discuss it at our next meeting. Okay, for an ordinance as to what Crescent City would like. It has a lot of things in there that either we'll like or we won't like, and some of those things could be just what you're discussing and what he's discussing. So it's just a vote to get the discussion started.
I didn't get to finish my.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, I'm gonna close, public comment. At this time, we currently have a motion on the table and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, so nay. Okay, let's go on to the next one.
Thank you, Mayor. The next item is in reference to eligibility for Commissioner Bailey to serve. The item is not to debate eligibility, it's simply to authorize the city attorney to seek a attorney general's opinion to settle the issue.
I will move to recommend seeking the Attorney General's opinion on whether or not Commissioner Christopher J. Bailey is eligible to hold an elected office in Florida.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Anyone have a second? Okay, motion fails for lack of a second.
I
We
feel,
need to have
you
some
know,
discussion.
This is out there, it's out there all the
Hold
time. People talk about it all the time, and I think that he'd like to get that off his back. quite frankly.
There's no saying. My rights have been destroyed since 1995. I don't have anything on my back. Everybody knew about this stuff. You guys posted it to begin with, and I still won the election. So frankly, this is just retribution for me testifying against you, and, you know, I'm all right with it. You can
You have nothing.
seek revenge if you like, but I will be here long before you are gone.
Okay, I don't think this is, now, she didn't get nasty with you.
Well, I didn't get that.
Well, let's not get nasty here. I think we need to have some
Let's be
some
cordial.
discussion.
Let's all
So
get along.
George, do you want to weigh in on this as to why we're even discussing this?
That's up to the commission. I mean, if you know for a second, I can certainly explain the position. The commission wants to hear.
I want to hear.
I would like to hear it.
The position?
I would like to hear what.
Yes.
It's already been voted down. You had no second. Let's go on to the next thing.
No, it has not been voted down.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna tell you that her motion failed.
Yeah.
Okay, her motion failed.
And that's what this is, a motion on the agenda that failed. Next.
Okay.
Right. Unless the commission directs me otherwise, there's nothing for me to say. That's correct.
Okay. The motion fails for lack of a second. We'll move on. Okay. Let's go to the next one, which is legal fees. I'm gonna ask you to ask professional.
Yes, ma'am.
Sure. Here, the next item on the agenda is, authorization to reimbursement of legal fees for Commissioner Burton. Her legal fees today have come to a total of a little over $18,000, almost $18,500. This is a large out-of-pocket expense for Commissioner Burton. She's seeking reimbursement. Staff recommends approval of authorization to sign the check, issue the check for reimbursement.
I'd like to make a statement. Just a very quick statement. And I want you to think about all this, but basically Commissioner Banks and Mayor Myers are eligible to be recalled right now. Commissioners Bailey and Rito become eligible.
Excuse me, Mayor. I thought I was clear about this, but I want to be clear. If Ms. Burton intends to disclose anything that would disqualify her from this vote, she has to do that before she can make any public comment on this. She's still allowed to comment.
I'm sorry, I will do that right now. I will now recuse myself from this vote. I didn't realize I had to do that.
I apologize.
And I apologize, I didn't understand that.
So my understanding is based on the fact that this could be a financial
Yes.
gain for
Yeah.
you to recuse yourself.
I was gonna end with the, I now recuse myself, but I just hope the city is ready for, another onslaught of agitators that find it fun and taking down cities and the elected people that are simply trying to do the job they were elected to do to the best of their ability. And I recuse myself. That's what I can do. So I will leave.
You don't have to leave. And you can still participate in the discussion, you just can't vote. And we'd ask you to fill out the Form 8B within the next 14 days. That's the way you can vote. It has to be public record that she has.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner DeVito?
Yes, I have a question for, Mr. Young.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we have a memo from Bobby Pickens. Right, and basically, the memorandum of law from Mr. Pickens said, this is always feel disrespectful calling him Bobby. Like, I feel like I just say Mr.
He's okay.
But no, he prefers that, so, but the memo said that he advised, to quote, hold off on an official vote to reimburse legal fees until the court renders an order in this case. Okay, I'm not sure which court. And he said, also, I have not discovered any Attorney General's opinion or court case that directly discusses the city's obligation to reimburse attorney fees in an unsuccessful challenge to the recall petition. So, I want to be as fair as possible to everyone. I want to do what is required by law. But at this point, we have a recommendation from the city manager, but I feel, that there really should be a written recommendation from our legal counsel before we take action on this. Because we have a written recommendation and we don't have anything to supersede it.
Okay. You want me to try to shed some light?
Sure.
Okay. At the time that that opinion was written by Mr. Pickens, the case was in a different posture. It's now in an appellate posture. It's before the 5th DCA. The DCA has issued its current order allowing Commissioner Burton to remain in office until they make a final decision. At that time, let me back up. There's two parts here. Our job is to render a legal opinion. Okay. I know a lot of times that the commission asks for more than just a legal opinion. At times we can and try our best to provide a recommendation that fits the legal opinion that we have. At that time, and I did agree with them at that time, that based on the posture of the case, the best outcome was to have a final outcome, a legal decision, so that the commission had all the facts before they made a decision. We've done some continued research. Primarily in the state of Florida, a public official is authorized reimbursement of their attorney's fees under two legal concepts. One is a Florida statute, okay? And the other is common law. The Attorney General's opinion that I provided you early on in this discussion several meetings ago is probably still the most, fits the facts of this case almost identically. Since that time, a case was decided by the Supreme Court, it's the Thornburg City of Fort Walton Beach case back 1990, so it was the year after. So they're very close together. That reinforced that Florida still follows common law when it comes to reimbursing a public official. No case requires, at least that we can find, no case requires that you have to be successful in your litigation as a public official in order to qualify to be reimbursed. What is discussed and what are the requirements are that the performance is in their official duties and it served the public purpose. In this particular case, all of Ms. Burton's actions will include seeking an injunction, fall under the definition of public purpose. She obviously is in the course of her official duties, okay? So where we stand now, if you had to ask me to deliver a no kidding, has to be done right now opinion, my legal opinion would be that the city is obligated to reimburse our legal fees. I do not have a crystal ball, so I cannot tell you what the final outcome would be, and that may not matter at all. There could potentially, a very, very small potential, something come out during the remainder of the case that might change my mind. I'd seriously doubt it. So based on the fact that you have someone who's acquired or accumulated large legal fees and that it's a personal burden, it impacts what we would say is our recommendation is not as strong that you wait till the end. The facts have changed. Our position on whether or not our legal opinion as to whether or not she is entitled to reimbursement remains the same. She is. And that's where I'll leave it. It's up to this commission to decide when, how, and where, as far as it comes to reimbursing attorney's fees.
Do you have another question?
No, I don't have another question. I would have a motion. Okay, I would move that we table this request until we at least get a written memorandum from our city attorney and potentially that there is some finality of the appeal. That there could be new information.
When it's my turn to respond, I'll.
Well,
So we have a motion, do we have a second? Motion fails for lack of second. George, would you like to respond? You're good? Okay. Okay, so do we have a motion to go forward with the payment of this, of her legal fees, reimbursement of her legal fees? And need a motion for that. Okay. We have a motion, so we're kind of in a quandary here.
Just so the commission is aware, if the issue is about the obligation, you've got our opinion, you can make your decision. The repercussions could be a potential lawsuit against the city.
I think we have to look at those two. I mean, I'm gonna weigh in a little bit that we could all be sitting in the same situation. And performing our jobs. And need to take that into consideration.
Well, as I said, I made a motion, to table it until we have a written opinion, and I'm just very uncomfortable going on a verbal opinion because, we had one a few months ago and it turned out to be incorrect. I'm more comfortable with things of this magnitude being put in writing. And as well, there's no appellate decision yet, so, I want to be fair, but I just think that the time is not tonight.
Commissioner Gordon.
You know, the appellate, court, the problem with that court is they have all the time in the world to make their decision. They don't, we don't know when that decision is going to be made. That can be, it can be tomorrow, or it could be 3 months from now, or 6 months from now. Or it could be really, you know, until the end of my term, a year and a half. I mean, I have 15 months to go, and it's the end of my term. And so I've put out close to $19,000 that I really would like back so I can pay some of the bills that I've kind of let go in order to pay my legal fees. And I think that they're due to me according to law. And I'm not sure why we have to wait to pay them.
Can I get a little clarification? We've got a written opinion. What more are you looking for in writing?
Commissioner Vita?
No, sorry, that's not in front of me right now. Well, basically, the opinion says they can't say definitively. I just would like you to clarify and bring it up to date with the current situation.
Okay.
How soon can you do that?
By next week. Sometime next week, we can have a updated version for you.
Okay.
The finding is not going to substantially change. I just told you tonight.
But,
I'm on the public record. That's about as good as in writing or better.
okay,
It's not changed.
I'm concerned about the conclusion that says, I have not discovered any Attorney General's opinion or court case that directly discusses the city's obligation to reimburse attorney fees in an unsuccessful challenge to the recall petition. So I think we need clarification on what is meant by unsuccessful challenge. I mean, I don't really want to debate it here, but whatever it takes to bring it up to date, because.
We'll take care of it.
Okay.
Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm gonna throw this burden on. I'm gonna go ahead and second her motion to, find out what happens after the appeal before I make my decision.
Well, her motion actually died, so she's gonna have to either restate her motion.
What do you think I made it money, you know? I really am. I'm actually a senior citizen on a fixed income.
Me too.
So just think about that.
Well,
Hold on a second.
Can make a
Hold on
motion.
a second. Yes, Commissioner Banks.
I don't think by turning down, not cutting the check tonight or tomorrow, saying that the commission is not gonna, go, we gonna abide by the law. I am. I don't know about the rest of y'all. I am gonna abide by the law. If the law says that we need to pay it, but when we get some more information, I think that's all the Commissioner Vito is saying. She not satisfied with the information that we have.
What she is saying is she wants to hear that the appellate court fails and therefore the city does not have to pay me. That's what she's waiting to hear.
Okay, let's
not what I said.
No, I didn't hear that.
Okay, let's have a motion.
Well, there's no motion yet.
Go ahead, I'll withdraw the motion that was almost a motion.
Go ahead.
Okay, so my motion was that we table this request for the payment of Commissioner Burton's legal fees until we have a written opinion to the current situation from our city attorney, at a minimum. And after that, I would be more comfortable if we waited until the outcome of the appellate court decision, but the motion would be to bring it back if we have a written opinion from our city attorney that addresses where we are in this proceeding.
Okay,
We'll take care of it.
okay, I need a second. You understand what she's asking to table this until he can give her a written opinion.
Until
Actually.
she preferred the appellate court.
I
Us, that's what she did.
We gotta wait till, we already got lawyers, what's on record, that, she must be paid, her attorney must be paid, so now we wait on the appellate court to come back and give.
That's not what her motion was.
Commissioner Banks, what I said was, and I'm sorry, I keep losing, the opinion that we had, needs clarification because it says,
Well, I got so much papers up.
right,
I don't
okay,
know
well,
about that.
I'm gonna read it to you. It says that I have not discovered an Attorney General's opinion or court case that directly discusses the city's obligation to reimburse attorney fees in an unsuccessful challenge to the recall petition. So, which is where we are today, the vote was had. I don't know, we need clarification on what this means. Was it an unsuccessful challenge? Is there a court case or an opinion that says we have to pay? In other words, I want them to clarify and tighten up this opinion that they gave because it doesn't seem to address where we are today after the vote took place. And after some of the court cases were not successful. So I want them to update this opinion as to the situation that we're in right now, because it doesn't clearly address that. This was written back at the beginning of April. And then with an updated opinion, we will see what the law is and what we are required to do. But I don't feel that it sufficiently addresses what has happened since it was written on April 6th. So in other words, I don't feel like we have enough law, enough updated law. So I want them to come back with that.
No problem.
And George said he would.
George said,
He said would, but right now she's got a motion and we're gonna need a second to go forward with that motion. Okay, so once again, motion dies.
all I wanna do, all I wanna do is have a clear conscience. I don't wanna deny nobody anything that belongs to them. I don't wanna deny that. Now, I think when whoever the attorneys come back with a clear opinion, letting us know that we must or should not, to keep from getting in another lawsuit. Cause see, that's what's gonna happen. So to keep from getting in another lawsuit, when the attorney come back and tell us what the appellate court or the judge or whoever gonna make the final decision, say that Crescent City must pay the legal fees. And I think that's what we should wait to see. Do that make sense what I'm saying? Do you get what I'm saying, Joe?
We have rendered an opinion to the commission.
Right.
It is a legal opinion based upon our legal research and knowledge. We will update that opinion for the commission. The only way you're going to get an order or a decision by a judge is if this commission is sued over this issue. So our obligation is to render a legal opinion to this commission, and it's your decision to make. I will update that decision or update that legal opinion based upon Ms. DeVito's request and some of the other discussion here. It is still up to this commission to make the decision.
Okay. Commissioner DeVito, did you have?
I just wanted to say, so essentially, the reason I made the motion, Commissioner Banks, is I feel like we will have a more clear idea of what our legal obligation is if George and Bobby bring the April 6th legal opinion up to date. And then we will have the best information available to us as to what our legal obligation is. So that's why I made that motion. I did that to be fair to Commissioner Burton and all of us, so that we know what the recommendation is under this particular situation.
Well, we must be fair. We don't wanna take nothing, I don't wanna take nothing from nobody.
Well,
You know,
right, so that was the intent of my motion. If you agree with my motion, we can make a second. If not, it will fail. And we'll move
I
on.
think it's already failed, and we should move on.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that,
It's
I
already,
don't think we are being, I think that we know we're gonna have an obligation to do this. I think you've got an Attorney General's opinion. I'm very satisfied with that Attorney General's opinion. And I think all of us could be in that same situation. And, yeah,
no,
yeah.
you have to do something wrong between the situation.
She did not, whoa, wait a second. Point of order there.
Well, you got your point of order. I think that's my personal opinion. Not
That's your
everybody
personal
here
opinion.
is gonna be
Well,
recalled.
guess what?
Guess what? Tell me what.
All four of us
Mhm.
were in that same meeting, okay?
And
And
you're
there
wrong.
was no wrong that was done there. So
Apparently the court sees different.
the court did not see different, sir.
She got recalled and it went on and.
I'm not gonna debate that, Vinnie. I'm not gonna
You
debate
don't
that
have
with
to
you.
make it a fact.
So with that, we're gonna go ahead. That's failed. I'm gonna recess this meeting and we're gonna open up our CRA, okay? Public comment?
Mayor, the only item on the CRA agenda is a request to extend the deadline for the grant program. It was June 1st, and we had one application, so we'd like to extend it. And I put on there July 5th, but really could be in August, to allow more time to get more applicants.
To move it to August?
Yes,
What's our meeting date in August, Karen? Do we have that?
That one was moved up,
I'm sorry.
August 10th. Oh, we moved it to the 7th. The 7th, yeah, we moved it to August 7th.
Okay, what did you just say?
so
Let me let those people leave that are gonna leave, so we can go forward.
to get the packet out to you, I would need the deadline like the 28th of July.
Okay.
So I can get it prepped in the packet for the August meeting. So our request would be to extend the deadline to July 28th.
We get a motion to extend the deadline to July 28th.
Mr. Banks, did you make the motion?
Okay, I got a Commissioner DeVito when she comes back in. Commissioner Bailey, would you like to make the motion? To extend, can I have everybody, please, to extend the deadline for the grants? We only had one grant application, so we're going to extend the deadline.
I'll make the motion to extend the grants.
I second.
There.
Okay, to date specific,
Yes.
July 28th, okay. We have a discussion on this? Okay. We have a motion, do we have any public comment on this, since we do have a proper motion in a second? Seeing nobody come forward, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, it's extended.
It was just.
Just a few more.
That was it.
That was it for the CRA. Okay, I'm gonna close out CRA. Bring it back into our regular scheduled meeting.
Mayor, the only thing I wanted to point out on my city manager report, I would want to mention the pump at our main lift station went out. And then a second pump has quit. So we may be looking at, we need to get at least one, possibly two new pumps at up to $15,000 apiece for our main lift station. But we'll bring that back to you when we have more information, just make you aware of that. The other item I want to point out is in the manhole replacement on US 17, you recall months and months ago, we had several vehicles damaged. The manhole cover broke. It's a very unique size. We didn't have, we had to borrow one from an alley to put over there. So the solution has been to redo the entire housing. It'll be a standard manhole, but it's going to be $9,000 to dig up 17.
I might be able to help.
That maintenance and traffic and so forth. That's
Shocking, but I might be able to help. If you have a metal manhole cover, I have a CNC pipe and cutter, I can cut a custom plate to put over any dimension that you would have to fit in.
I'll talk to Keith, because we do have an alley manhole that's now covered with plywood that we need.
I have a CNC, we can just order the plate. I won't charge the city to cut it, there's no conflict of interest. So I can cut the plate to any dimension that you want, anything.
Yeah, check with Keith. He's right. Good for him.
I'll do that.
But that's all I wanted to call out.
Okay, it looks like, just for the public, just so that for some of this, looks like we did receive for the debris expenses from the FEMA, $6,100. Reimbursement for
Yes,
that,
that's
but
for-
still not for the dock, correct?
We're still waiting on the dock. We haven't get new bids for the dock. It's been so long. And then we bid replacing the entire dock. The team was gonna reimburse us to just repair the broken part. So we had to get a new bid for just the broken part.
Okay, and then legislative appropriations were approved for the 450.
Didn't even governor's approval.
Okay. For the water main replacement, South Main, and then also for the water main replacement project on Prospect Street.
Yeah, so that'll fund all the projects we paid to use our own money to design.
Anybody have any more questions? I do know the patching of the roads, I believe that was done this last week.
That is bigger than this.
Anybody have any other questions or comments on the city manager report?
I do, actually.
Okay.
I noticed in the CRA portion of the city manager's report, it was mentioned that there was an investor making inquiries. So my question is about that particular inquiry. Is that just an investor wanting to buy buildings versus operating a business? And do we know how they found out about us? What motivated them to contact us and say?
Which,
Was that, the pages are numbered. but it follows the code enforcement chart, CRA Main Street. Then if you turn to the next page, somewhere in there, one of the, just down from the top of the next page, telephone call from investor wanting information on available property. So do we have any background information
Are you
on?
talking about for the music store? Is that the one you're talking about for the music store?
I have no idea. It says telephone call from investor wanting information on available property. Advise them of vacant spaces for sale downtown, including the spray house. So I don't know whether, I don't know anything about the call. What I'm interested in is how did they find out about us, and, I mean, can you shed any light on that?
That was for the spray house that I think is coming in next week possibly.
That particular investor is someone who contacted, the New York City Hall about a year ago. He lives in California. He's interested in the spray house, particularly. And we have a meeting scheduled with him next week. He found out about, Crescent City through Trish and Gary Hart. He's friends with them. She's our, promotion chair of the downtown partnership.
Okay, so it was through a personal connection.
Yes.
And as well, just, you know, Charles has mentioned before, you know, we had an inquiry about this, we had an inquiry about that. I don't know how the rest of the commissioners feel about it, but, since we're the CRA board, I think it would be helpful to have a more detailed report that tells us how many inquiries we get, what kind of space they're looking for. I mean, really, to be an informed CRA board, I think we need to have more insight on, you know, what interests people in investing here, and if they don't, why don't they? So that when we make our decisions, we're informed about that. So I think that would be helpful for us to know, because you all know, but we don't. And then as well, it's, one of the bullet points says, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with this, but I just had a question about it, that it said deliver grant application to some downtown building owners, including Todd Wilson, Alamogos Pharmacy Doctor's Office. Is there a particular reason that it was delivered to this for people?
No particular reason. Oh, well, actually, Todd Wilson requested one. Alamogos, I discussed it with them and they asked for one. The pharmacy building looked like it could be painted. I connected with the owner and met with him and encouraged him to, I was just trying to inform.
There's a broader, reason for my question. I was out of the room when, the discussion was had to, extend the deadline on the grant application. Did y'all discuss, the suggestion that Commissioner Bailey made in the last workshop about having a workshop for business owners on grant application?
Christina and I have discussed it, the board didn't discuss it while you were out of the room, if that was your question.
Right, because it just seems to me we have a very low number of applications received. I've received calls about, I have the application, you know, asking me questions, so I refer them to you. But it seems to me pretty important to publicize it widely and also maybe have a workshop so that people can come in and get all their questions answered. And I think the form is very complete, but it's also not that easy to understand if you're not used to it, so.
And that's why I kind of tried to hit the pavement running, with the applications in hand and my cards and just kind of trying to
But
inform.
there's a lot of people who are eligible, so I'm just saying, I thought Commissioner Bailey.
We'll have a little mixer or something, invite everybody for, you know, information group and get everybody get in. You know, it's just great public community relations.
We'll put that together.
We're also going to put it out, and then we're filming that tomorrow for the video too. Announcing
Extension.
Announcing the grant extension tomorrow too, if it passed tonight, which it did. So that would be part of it too. Anything else, Commissioner DeVito?
No, just that, we had on our desk, I mean, we've got the financial statements from, the finance department, and somewhere in all paper on our desk, there was a memo that went with it, which I didn't have time to read before the meeting started. My question to the city manager is, how are we doing with revenues and expenditures, just generally?
We're doing as budgeted. If you look at the report, I'll put together a summary of the funds for you. You can look at that at your leisure, but, right now, at this time of the year, you can see it's expressed in percentage and the more detailed budget. We're right on track with our expenditures, and our revenue looks good as well. So overall, we're in a good position for the year.
But last year, we ended the year with like less than $10,000 left over.
Yeah.
And I think you said if we did pay the requested legal fees, that we would have to take it out of the reserves. So we're budgeted down to pretty much every dollar. Would that be fair to say?
Well, the reason I said that is because rather than strip it out of the departments, we'll have those monies left over at the end. You know, we won't spend all the small engine repair line or all of the tires and oil line. But rather than actually go through and zero those out to get that money, I asked to take it just out of the reserve. But right now, we're on track for the end of the year. I know historically, I feel like the feeling was see how much we can have left over at the end and throw it in the barrel. But we budgeted for it. Projects like to do the projects.
But last year was very close. I mean, if all of the commissioners had used their education money, I think we would have gone over. So, okay, that answers my question. Thank you very much.
Would we have to have maybe an emergency session or something for, case these pumps go out? Get these pumps, keep things from drying up, stop.
No, that's an emergency situation. I'm authorized to spend the money on an emergency. And I can always come back to you. And historically, what they've done is the meeting after, they say they get approval for the emergency expenditure. But if they're down, we have to replace them. So right now, we're operating, but it's, I'll let you know that's coming. Yeah, so we're living along.
Okay, no other questions of Mr. Rudd? Okay, we're gonna move on to our city attorney. Do you have any reports?
I think we've covered everything.
Okay, thank you for being here tonight. Do you have any questions does anybody have any questions of our city attorney? No?
I got
Yes, sir.
a tree limb out in the Coles Park.
Okay.
I've been trying to get it cut. What if all of somebody's kids in the city gonna be in a lawsuit? I've been trying and I can't get a buzz. It really needs to be cut down. It's hanging right over some of the benches.
Okay. Mr. Rudd?
And I did go out there and show our guys that, and it's most of that tree, so we'll go ahead and remove it. We removed what we thought it was a little branch, but we're talking about the whole,
Yeah, that big.
half the tree.
Yeah, it's hanging right where the kids sit down and play it, right there. If it ever fall, I just hope nobody don't be there.
Is there a reason that it would fall? Is the tree disease? Well, has the tree board been asked to go out and look at it?
Have they looked at it?
We went to, the tree board went and did a bunch of workshops and looked at every single tree in every single park, including the Fletcher Park. And Colbert was one of those parks, and that tree was discussed, but they can't make a motion or do anything when it's a workshop. So when they come to June 15th, that is on, part of the agenda for June 15th, that discuss the trees that need to be cut down and to make motions on.
Did they mention that tree though?
They mentioned a tree in Colbert Park. I'm not sure exactly which one it was mentioned. I can see if they, give me 1 minute, I can see what tree.
Well, basically, they just ride by it and you can see what trees need to be cut down in it. Oh.
Yeah, they mentioned, because they measured every single tree.
So is it one under benches? Charles, you know which one it is.
It's one of the trees that inside
Oh, inside the park,
In
not
ours is
one,
over
not
inside
one
the
in the
park.
parking lot,
Not
okay,
this, it's
okay,
not this.
It's inside the park, hanging right over.
Hanging.
Yeah.
okay.
I'll talk to Ronnie about it in the morning.
Okay. Thank you, and with that, I guess we'll open it up to city commission, if we have, if there's any city commission business. Anybody has?
You got mine, just did.
We just got yours, okay,
Mayor, I do have a couple of concerns.
okay,
The ones bring up, at the workshop, city manager mentioned to us that he was going to request, the outstanding code enforcement lien be enforced against the owner of the building where China Walker operates. I'm just a little concerned about that because it's my understanding the building owner is not the people who operate the restaurants.
Correct, and you all should have a summary of that code enforcement history.
Right,
Yeah, it's pretty expensive.
you know, I don't know. China Walk is doing a great business there. I don't think the property looks any worse than other properties in town. I certainly don't see any garbage there. What is the urgency to enforce the lien? Because I don't see an egregious situation, and I certainly wouldn't want to upset the apple cart and have this property owner decide that it's not worth it, and, you know, kick out the tenant. I don't know what kind of lease they have. But I do think we need to be mindful of protecting our going businesses.
I think it's been running for 10 years or something, so I'm not sure, say it was urgent, but lately, people keep saying that place looks terrible, and I drove by there and it looks abandoned, essentially. I don't know if George could speak to it, if we foreclosed, we would become the owner, and they can still. But it's people saying, why aren't we doing something about this? We have a lien running, we can't find them again.
But what we don't know is what kind of lease, do they have like a month-to-month lease? We don't even know. I just want to make sure before we do anything that there's no repercussions on the restaurant owner. And I don't know who's responsible. I mean, right, well, the people that own the actual business.
Well, as you saw in my memo, the 3 previous letters we sent out that we're gonna foreclose caused the properties to come into compliance, and we didn't have to proceed.
Right, but we don't, I feel like we need a little bit more information on this. Every property owner is not the same, isn't the owner of 1005 Summit from out of state?
I believe so.
I don't know, I mean, people may be complaining, I don't know who they are. A lot of people are very happy with China Walk and go buy food there. I just don't want to have any repercussions on them. There's no garbage there. If there was garbage, I could understand that, but there's not. Isn't it part of the CRA?
Is in the North CRA.
Right, can we find out more information about what their lease is?
We can ask them what their lease is.
I don't know, I just had,
I think anything we cause them to do is gonna enhance their business, because it's gonna make the business look better, so if you.
well, that's what we say, that's what we hope, there's unintended consequences sometimes.
Mayor, could I say this? But how much is it doing?
It was 200,
Sam, it's over $200,000, I think.
215 or something.
How much? Wow.
And they had an issue
What are we
previously.
trying to do?
They had a previous lien, which we forgave, the commission at that time forgave, and then they were fined again for continued violations, and now the money just run
Have they
out.
ever been, has the health department gone and given them any
I don't know.
write-ups or anything like that? Don't know.
What I'm talking about, what good is the code enforcement?
I agree.
Yeah, there's been no
If
repercussions
we,
for non-compliance.
people owe $200,000 for fines and we ain't, we falling down somewhere. Come on, hey.
Well, the clock
We
keeps
should have
ticking,
been,
so those fines just keep building up.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, though, she hasn't had any luck getting in touch with the owner or the people that she needs to get in touch to actually do what she needs to do, and that's been a big problem, and that's why it just keeps taking, not getting right people.
We don't have a given, phone, mailing address to the owner.
We have a mailing address. The first letter came back as undeliverable. I don't think the second letter came back.
We just never got an answer, did it?
Yeah, so we don't know, but
That's what I mean.
Surely the tenant should have some way to get hold of them to pay the rent, to get hold of them.
There you go.
Surely the tenant should have some contact information.
we'll follow up.
Anything else, Commissioner Trujillo?
No.
With that, I do want to bring something up, Charles, if we can look into it, the Busy Bug at Eagle Lions. I know we're gonna have, and we go through the budget process, that it really needs to be painted.
Has a lot of graffiti on it.
Yeah, and I've scrubbed it down multiple times,
Yeah.
and, there's not much more we can do with it, so that's just something as we go through the budget, so that we can possibly do something with that.
And what about the catfish? Was in there? It needs some, I got out the other day, and walked by there, dust, I don't know how to.
It needs to be cleaned and,
If we gonna keep
and
it,
probably revarnished.
we need to maintain it, if we gonna keep it. And, yeah, and it's so nice, it's really, I was glad that we did that, but we need to maintain it.
Before I ask for a motion to adjourn, Ms. Sykes, I still have your card here, and so I don't know if,
My card was in regard to seeking the attorney's opinion, which,
okay,
that never got a second, and reimbursement of legal fees never got a second, so.
okay, I just
Yeah,
wanted to make
okay.
sure I still had your, so we weren't being ignored. With that, can I have a motion, please, to, adjourn this meeting?
I said,
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
That was one of our shortest meetings.